O Show. This is the Big 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 O Show.
There's no need to drive around South Florida wasting valuable time looking for a new or certified pre-owned Acura. Go to the #1 volume sales dealership in the Southeast United States. Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines. Purchase with pace and space in a dealership tailored to your needs. From home buying to providing that personal touch. Contact the 2020 Satisfaction Award winner Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines. 888-776-5123. That's 888-776-5123. Or visit them at 15601 Pines Boulevard in Pembroke Pines.
Welton Rayom has more than 62 years of litigation experience handling insurance disputes. They're committed to resolving even the toughest insurance claims quickly. Call them for a free consultation. 954-966-4646. At Welton Rayom, they don't get paid unless you win. Property damage claims to your home, business, or condo as a result of a hurricane. Welton Rayom can help. Water, mold, fire, smoke damage, Welton Rayom can help. Call 954-966-4646.
If you're a Miami sports fan, then there's only one store to go to, and that's Caneswear at Miami Fanwear in Davie. They're your one-stop shop for all your Inter Miami CF, Canes, Dolphins, Panthers, and Marlins merchandise. They have hats, t-shirts, game day jerseys, and so much more. Located at 2511 South University Drive in Davie, and open 24/7 online at caneswear.com or intermiamiwear.com. Call them at 954-835-5597. Caneswear, the spot where Inter Miami and all Miami sports fans shop.
Why is it that you get locked out in the worst moments of your life?
Where are my car keys? Man, I can't find my house keys.
In those frustrating moments, you need a locksmith you can count on. A. Lenny Locksmiths in South Florida, from Miami to Port St. Lucie. In Central Florida, A. Lenny locks it down in Orlando and Tampa Bay. Lockouts or lock changes for home or business, car key replacements, and programming all model cars. 24-hour service. Call them at 855-869-5625. Go to the website at alennylocksmith.com.
Oh, great. You have a doorbell camera. Now you have a front row seat to your house getting robbed.
They're breaking into my house!
Ooh, there goes the TV. I'm sure it'll turn up at the pawn shop.
No, not the TV!
Just because you can see them, that doesn't mean you can stop them. With Slogans, you get 24-hour monitoring, a free home security system, and professional installation. Plus, free doorbell camera, one that'll actually work for you.
Get out of my house! Get out of the house!
Call 1-800-ALARM-ME.
When you move, you need a reliable company led by passionate folks, eager to assist its customers during a transitional process that needs to be smooth. Call Essential Moving Experts at 844-368-5750 for all your local and long-distance moving needs. You can rely on Essential Moving Experts. Mention the Big O Show and get $150 off. Family owned and operated, they offer free 30-day storage, full-service moving, fully licensed, bonded, and insured. Moving was never so easy. EssentialMovingExperts.com.
For over 16 years, EJDConstruction.com has provided South Florida residents quality craftsmanship, accurate project management, and exceptional service. That's why EJDConstruction.com is an A-rated member of Angie's List and the Better Business Bureau. When you're looking for the right custom home builder for additions or home remodeling, please call my friend Eric at 305-433-4843. That's 305-433-4843 for EJDConstruction.com.
Welcome to Red Light Therapy, a revolutionary technology perfected by NASA to aid in muscle strengthening and recovery. Red and infrared light has the capacity to penetrate deep into the cell's mitochondria, potentially leading to increased energy, faster recovery, and the optimal performance your body demands. Train, fight, recover.
Sports Grill on Bird Road, Miami Lakes, and their newest location in Doral is now hiring. If you're looking to join a great company and South Florida institution, give them a ring or drop an email. Sports Grill is hiring all kinds of positions from hostess to servers, bartenders, or join the kitchen staff to craft some great food for their amazing customers. Please send your resume to m.cruz@sportsgrillmiami.com or call 305-219-5726. That's 305-219-5726. Sports Grill. Good food, good drink, good friends. Statements or beliefs expressed on the following program by the host, guests, or callers are not necessarily the opinions of FantasyXS.com, Media Group Inc., ownership, management, sponsors, or website. When it comes to South Florida sports teams, very few in EMEA have witnessed, lived, and covered it like the Big O. Let's start the program dedicated to your favorite South Florida teams with a passion that's unmatched. The Big O Radio Show is on. Here's the Big O.
Good afternoon, boys and girls. Yes, sir. We are ready to rock and roll on a beautiful Wednesday. It is hump day. Hope you all are feeling well. I'm feeling good, fresh out of practice. Sean Stanley was out there with me, of course, the man that masters this program every single day. The C-Man also in the house. So you've got the entire motley crew carrying you. Really exciting, man. I wish I could, there's stuff that we're working on, waiting for it to kind of get all finalized, and it's gonna be a really exciting football season. I gotta tell you, not just watching the Canes on the field and watching the dynamics of Mario Cristobal take over, and I think we're gonna see the kind of program that we're all gonna be proud of, and then watching, I think, the Dolphins' transformation. And finally, I know that we've been waiting for this moment for one coach after another, and hopefully this is the one. And you just have a different vibe, from being around this team and watching what's going on today. So, well, not today. I mean, just watching what's going on over the last couple of months. So I like what I'm seeing, overall. From the team. So we'll get into a bunch of the stuff that went on today in practice. Of course, we'll get into, the annoying stuff too, because obviously there's always annoying stuff that you got to kind of, tolerate. And we'll get into that also on the program. Ian Rapoport will join us at 4:00. Normally Wednesdays, we go a little earlier. You know what I'm saying? But today it's a little different because we are going to go till 6. Well, actually, we'll be on. Maybe we'll do something after Inside the Paint. Normally, Inside the Paint is on 9 to 10 in the morning on Wednesdays. But today we wanted to go to Dolphins camp. And I know Tua talked today, so that was cool. And I want to see practice because we're not going to be able to see a lot of practices left. We've got the ones against the Eagles next week, and then it's over. And we're not going to be allowed to be watching anymore. Like you guys aren't able to watch practice this week. We are. So I'm going to go. And I want to, and listen, Sean and I plan on going once a week down, and I guess we're going to have to go Wednesdays, the craziest day of them all, down there. But I guess it is what it is, and we'll have to go with the zoo on Wednesdays. I didn't really want to do the zoo. I'd rather go on a Thursday or a Friday where it's a little bit more calm and less people are there. At least that's, that was the MO back in the day. And it's still kind of like that because I asked the guys about it. So we'll see. I think we'll go on Wednesdays. So that day will get altered here. I don't know. Maybe we change Inside the Paint and put it on another day. I'll talk to the guys and see, because during the season, if we are going to go on Wednesdays, that will definitely alter what we do on Wednesdays. So Inside the Paint today will be 5 to 6 p.m. Okay. 5 to 6 p.m. All right. So that's when we get the boys, and they will be talking a little basketball from 5 to 6. And what's it called? The other thing that I was going to tell you, what else do we have? Oh, Ian Rapoport will join us at 4:00 also. So we'll have some fun with Ian on Le Programme. If you guys want to get in, really simple, on the Welt and Rayom text line, 855-912-1056. That's 855-912-1056. If you want to get in on the Welt and Rayom text line, you can also reach out to us on Twitter. That's at Big O Show. Follow us there as always. I tell you all the time, it's like a 24-hour talk show right there on Twitter. So make sure you follow us there. What else do we have going on in the world of sports? We'll give you our liquor split matchup of the night. We won last night, so we elevated our record to 27-13-1. So we'll give you our selection. Well, you know what? We got a 4-10 game. I got to tell you, you know what, Sean? Why don't we do it right now so people have some time if they want to go with the liquor split matchup? They could download the app, iOS or Android, anywhere here in Miami. All right. Alapata, Overtown, Coconut Grove, Westchester, Little Havana, South Beach. Tap that app, baby. Download iOS or Android and use our code BIGO15. You will get 15% off your first order. And our friends in Tampa, if you're listening right now in Tampa, Liquor Split has expanded to Tampa. And you can use our code there, BIGO15, and you will get 15% off your first order. So you're in Tampa right now having a party, a get-together, a meeting. You don't want to leave. Keep it going. Keep that meeting going. Keep the party going. Tap that app, download it, and order it. Flat fee of $2.99, and everything gets delivered. Favorite vodka, wine, beer, whiskey, gin, you name it, vodka, go for it. Liquorsplit.com. Let's go with our liquor split matchup of the night.
It's time to tap that app. And no one loves to tap that app like the Big O. Here's the liquor split matchup of the night.
Alrighty. Rock Bear, by the way, thank you, sir. Says listening in the UK. I always love when you guys tell us where you're listening from. Always like seeing where you're at anywhere in the world, which is a beautiful thing. So yesterday, we took the Marlins plus 1.5 runs. And guess what? They won 4-3. They didn't even need the runs. They hung on for dear life there for the win against San Diego. So we improved to 27-13-1. That's an impressive 41-game streak right there, man. 27-13-1. Tonight, oh, by the way, congratulations to Mr. Cabrera yesterday. Not a big game, but 4 innings, shutout, 7 Ks, a 1.70 ERA. Kid's doing nice so far. And Nick picked up the home run. The kid from DeLand, Florida, hit his the catcher hit his 6th home run of the year. So I'd be remiss if I did not give a little love to some folks out there that performed well for the Marlins. We love our Marlins. You know, Mr. Sherman doesn't love us back enough, but we love our team. We'd like for him to spend some money and really try to bring a winner together, but, you know, whatever. 4:10. So in just over an hour, they wrap up this series against the San Diego Padres. And Pablo Lopez is on the mound, towing that slab at 7-7 with a 3.55 ERA. This is the 500 matchup. Mike Clevenger for San Diego, he's 4-4 with a 3.47 ERA. He was with the Indians too, right? Anyway, so kind of the same kind of pitchers right now. You know what I'm saying? Pablo's been a little uneven lately. San Diego is favored by a 1.5 in this one. The over and under is 7. Miami is plus 125 in the money line, and San Diego is minus 155 in the money line. I got to tell you something, folks. San Diego, you know, with the runs, not that offense isn't really explosive right now. And Pablo, I'm going to count on Pablo Lopez coming through with a decent outing today. I'm going to go Marlins plus 1.5 today against the San Diego Padres. I think Pablo will keep them in the game. I think they can actually win this game, that they don't even need the runs. But just in case, even if they lose, I can see them losing by 1 run and you eke it out like it always is. That 1.5 is, it just seems to play into it a lot of times. Yesterday it didn't. We were safe yesterday. But you never know with these guys. I'm going to go Miami plus 1.5 runs here. I'm going to go behind Pablo Lopez against Mr. Clevenger. That is our liquor split matchup of the night.
The matchup of the night is brought to you by Liquor Split, Miami's own online liquor store. Liquor Split. Download then tap that app and get your favorite liquor delivered to you for just $2.99. No risk, no drinking and driving. Tap that app with Liquor Split.
We have some breaking news. Woj has just reported LeBron James has agreed to a 2-year, $97.1 million contract. So LeBron in LA for 2 more years. There you go. The cyborg, a Woj bomb coming in. Wow. $97 million. Holy moly. Chase once says Marlins are so bad. Yeah, the Marlins are bad, but in this streak, you know, I've won with the Marlins several times actually that I've actually bet with the Marlins, like I am again today. In fact, today it's like 2 in a row that I've actually bet on the Marlins. Yeah, sometimes, I mean, they have enough to, even when they lose close enough that you end up winning. You know what I'm saying? So, oh man. All right. Big O, do you like Nicaraguan food? Have you ever had it? Yes, I have had it, and I do like it. Why? Why wouldn't I like it? What's wrong with Nicaraguan food? It's good food, man. Yeah, I've had it. I mean, listen, if you're in South Florida, come on, man. Haven't had a little Haitian food, haven't had a little Jamaican food, haven't had a little Cuban food, haven't had a little Puerto Rican food. Come on, man. Dominican, you gotta expand, man. You got a nice melting pot here in South Florida. So you could go to different neighborhoods. You can try, you know, different types of foods. Yeah, man. Hell yeah. This is the place to do it, man. That's what you love about South Florida, that we're multicultural. We're so deep when it comes to our culture. It's freaking awesome. So yes, I've definitely had it. No doubt. Nicaraguan food is excellent. Peruvian food is also fantastic. I've had that as well, too. Big O, I'm a Lakers fan first because I grew up with Magic Johnson before the Heat and Magic were in Florida, but still, like the Florida teams, LeBron 2-year option for $97 million. Yes, we just read that. And it's a lot of money, man. It's a lot of money for a guy that is breaking down now, because the cyborg never broke down. But the cyborg has actually been breaking down lately. Again, what are they going to do? You know what I mean? It's weird how the Lakers are really they're not sexy anymore as a franchise. They're still sexy because it's LA. But nobody looks at Jeannie Buss and that front office and has any respect for Rob Pelinka or anything that they're doing. It's a clown show. Okay? Let's call it like we see it. And that's why the LA thing, it's kind of weird because it's kind of a lot like the Knicks, right? The Knicks are a joke. If you're going, it's because you're going for the city and, you'll play there or not. But you're not, oh, my God, I want to play for James Dolan and I want to play for the storied history of the Knicks and all that. And no, they have no history. Their history sucks. Their history's so old that, they've been a joke for so long. And why? Because of the owner. And in a way, the Lakers are the same way. The Lakers are a joke. And they have to keep LeBron because really they're not that destination anymore. They're the city, and that's questionable in itself. It's nice to visit. I don't know if I want to live in California. No, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. There's no way in hell I would want to live in California. Okay? There's no way in hell. Don't mind visiting. I have a blast when I go to LA and visit. Go see a few concerts. Go hang out. Eat some restaurants, and get the hell out. So that, to me, that's kind of what's changed with LA. Since Dr. Buss passed away, it reminds me a lot of what's happened to the Dolphins. Shula, we forced Shula out the door, and because most of us were idiots and we think, oh, the game passed him by, yada, 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 and then we learned our lesson. But we have gradually seen everything that Shula built completely destroyed. Completely destroyed. The Dolphins have been a joke of a franchise for a long time now. And it's kind of one of those things, you know what I mean? And if players are coming, they're coming for the destination, for living in Miami and South Florida and all of that. And you've got to create it. Now, it's not like the Heat. That when people sign with the Heat, they're signing because they're with Pat Riley. They're with a championship organization. They're with an organization that wins every year. You don't have to win a title, but they go to the playoffs all the time. They win more games than they lose. It's an honor to play for the Miami Heat organization, top to bottom. You know what I mean? So it's interesting to see how the Lakers, and they have to kind of overpay and they have to kind of do these kind of things now in order. And in this case, you got to keep LeBron happy. So what are you going to do? You have to give him all that money, even though I could argue that that's not really a good move. The way he's been breaking down and all the games that he's been missing. I don't know. But what are you going to do? They will try. The sad part is I got to put up with them again on television a whole bunch of times. Let's see. This is because they didn't take well, I mean, that's because other people in the organization wanted power. So why are you going to give it to Jerry West? It would only make sense. So stupid, right? Like Jerry, please run our team. It's like if you're the Lakers, that should have been Jeannie Buss's first move when she took over. Jerry, can you come back here? Whatever you want, carte blanche. Just run it, man. And that's it. That's what you should have done right from the get-go. Don't let him go to anywhere else. You out of here? Are you crazy? Let's see. All right, what else do we have? Lakers have no other choice but to sign LeBron back. They gave up their whole future to have LeBron and AD paired up. Yep, I'm with you there. Birdie on the Marlins is good. Might be our best player. There's a couple players on that team. It's just they need more, man. You need a lot more, and you got to help out, and it's up to ownership. What time do you go to sleep and wake up, and do you take melatonin? Melatonin doesn't work for me. I've tried melatonin. Doesn't work for me. So, that's not one of those deals. What can I tell you? Oh, I sleep when I sleep, and I work when I work. I don't know. I don't really have a set time or anything like that. But I get my sleep in, overall. Lakers have 30 chips. They owe my care and about ticket sales and how many celebs show up. Yeah. Oh, you mean, Laker. Oh, I see what you're saying. Because they have the championships. Well, they don't have 30, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, you can, live in the past and all that, but let's really talk about what's gone on lately. Yeah, they got their fluke championship in the bubble and got the break with the Heat, got injured and all that. But outside of that, it's been a joke of a franchise for a while now. It's still a joke. Even winning the title, they're still a joke. And if you don't admit that, then you're probably just a blind ass Lakers fan that won't admit it. It's like a Democrat thinking that they actually come up with a good candidate every 4 years and to run for president. You know what I mean? And neither do the Republicans, by the way, just in case. Because you butthurt people. Oh, no, you took one shot on one side. You didn't take a shot on the other. They're both clown shows. But it's kind of the same thing. If you think your party's got it right or you think the Lakers has got it right, you're all idiots. Every one of you. Okay? So that's pretty simple. Try meditation, Big O, or yoga. I have something very vulgar to say about that. I'll be nice. Try a good load of sex, then you go to sleep. Sex, sleep. Just a thought. That's all I'm saying. What'd you have for lunch, Big O? Is that where we're going now? Oh, man, yes. I love it. You guys are a trip. Today at camp, let's see. We had Eric Rowe out, Greg Little, John Lovett, Brennan Scarlett. Teron Armstead was limited, did not do much today. And Jalen Waddle, again, did not practice. Coach says it's something minor. He was, again, working on the jugs machine. I put it out there on Twitter today. I was watching him work on the jugs machine. So it doesn't seem like it's anything really serious. And one of the things that they've kind of shown throughout the league overall nowadays is that they're going to take precaution. And they're going to be safe. They're going to play it on the safe side every time. And so if he did tweak a little something, I'm not going to be concerned about Jalen Waddle. Do I need to see Jalen Waddle? No. He already proved it to me last year. See, last year, Jalen Waddle proved to people that he was better than what you thought he was. Yeah. Because some people will say, well, wait a minute. Oh, what are you talking about? Jalen Waddle didn't go deep and all those things that we wanted. Well, the offense wasn't built for that. So they asked him to play in the slot and play a really tough game where you're helping move the chains and making tough intermediate catches where you've got to juke people and shake tackles and try to, gain some extra yardage. It's a lot harder than it is once you get out in the open field and you juke somebody and there's just space. That's a whole different ballgame. That's to your advantage. The fact that Jalen Waddle last year played a completely different game than we all expected, it showed me, one, that he was tough enough to be a slot receiver, okay? That he was smart enough to also adjust and play this game, which is not the game they used him for at Alabama. Where he's at now on the outside with Tyreek, that's where he's supposed to be. Out in the open space where his speed and cutting ability becomes something that you cannot handle. Problem is you had an offense that could not hold up. And so Tua is not going to have time to wait for somebody downfield. So you had to make quick decisions. Bring him closer to the line of scrimmage and get him out of there and get him quickly. So if anything, I want to just reassure you guys out there and ladies that when you're talking about Jalen Waddle, and, because some people, oh my God, it's a concern. No, it's not. Relax. We've got a long time. Today's what? The 17th, right? Today's August 17th. Doesn't the season start on the 11th, right? Something like that. So you're 4 weeks away, 3.5 weeks away, whatever. You got plenty of time. He'll be fine. And if it's nothing serious and he thinks he can practice, but you're holding him out the last couple of days, well, then I'd rather you have him healthy for the dress rehearsal instead of pushing it for this. Right now, folks, we need to see more of Trent Sherfield, who has made the team, but whatever. River Craycraft and Lynn Bowden Jr. and Preston Williams, if he ever wants to wake up, and Braylon Sanders. And that's what this is about now. It's nice to see Tyreek Hill out there, but am I that like, oh my God, I got to see him out there. He needs the reps and this and that. No, I'm not that concerned. If he's out there getting some exercise and staying in shape, I'm fine with that. But you kind of need to see the other guys. That's what the monogamy, the blessing of Jones being out is that Iggy gets a lot of playing time. And by the way, he followed up today with another decent day. Had another eye-opening play, Iggy, today that you were like, okay, now you start now every day you start having little successes and you start building on those little successes to get to bigger ones. Who knows? We'll see. We'll get to that. But Jalen Waddle, I'm not worried about his injuries right now. Or whatever little injury he has, because he's still out on the field. He's still out there with his teammates. He's catching balls on the jugs machine, so it can't be that bad. So it's just one of those things where they're taking precaution, and I have no problem with that. And Teron Armstead the same way. There is no need to overwork Teron Armstead till we get to the regular season. That's when you need him. So for those of you worried about the Jalen Waddle stuff, it's way too early right now to be concerned or to even call it a concern, because what he's missing now is nothing. He's already proven himself. He's set. We need to see other guys overall. The guys that are going to play with him. Ricky D, how about replacing Omar with Perkins? I'm done with Omar. It's, by the way, congratulations to Chris Perkins. He is getting back on the Dolphins beat. He's been on the beat several times. He was doing news for the Sentinel. And so, I mean, it makes sense. Bring somebody back that knows the beat, that's been on the beat before. They don't have to bring somebody from out of town. They don't have to pay for moving fees and all that kind of stuff. They don't have, the resources anymore. So it's really smart to stay in-house, and Perk can do the job, and he can do an excellent job for you. Why go out and spend all that money for no reason? You've got somebody in-house, boom. That's it. So Perk is back in the mix. I'm sure you will see him on the show once in a while doing his thing here with us, because we love Perk. He's a friend. The instant panic in people never ceases to amaze me. No wonder folks lose money in the stock market. No long-term thinking. Exactly. Right. That's exactly it. And it's because we live in a microwave society. And if you have a microwave type of thinking, you cannot be an investor. No. No. Can't do it. Can't do it. Can't win with them. Can't coach them. You're right. You're right. And that's the problem. And then there's overreaction. Oh my God, Tua threw 2 interceptions today. Oh, Javon Holland's a hell of a player. One of them was all Tua. I don't even give Javon Holland that much credit because Tua should have thrown it sooner and he put too much air on that ball. And that's where he screwed up. And that's where he gave Javon Holland Javon was burned. The problem was he threw a bad pass. And so it was all Tua, not Javon Holland, really. I mean, I give him credit for the effort. He's a stud. The other interception was a Javon Holland masterpiece. The second one was just Tua. He floated it way too much. You know what I mean? And so that was his problem there. He mistimed that one, and that's going to happen. And then the overreactions start. Today I was talking with Adam Beasley, and we were talking about Omar's comment about, saying that Tua is a weirdo. And I was like, that's crap. And I love Omar, but that weirdo stuff is crap because Aaron Rodgers is a weirdo. Nobody says anything else about it, but he wins and he plays. That's all that matters. When you go on the field, when you get in the locker room, do you know what you're doing? Yes. Okay, that's it. That's all they want. Russell Wilson doesn't do anything with his teammates. He's, according to Omar, the same thing, a weirdo, corny, whatever. But he wins. He can play. And you can't have it both ways. When, you say, well, he doesn't associate with his didn't he just go out with them and took them to dinner and paid for it and paid for the Uber and all that stuff? Weren't Tyreek and some of the guys at his house also that they talked about? Wasn't Tua at Tyreek's house? Wasn't Tua throwing with his teammates in the offseason? So I'm sorry. I bet you Aaron Rodgers didn't do any of that. That's the problem with the whole Tua thing. I know I'm Tuanon. I get it. I'm team president of Tuanon, so I'm blindfolded and I'm not seeing reality. Fine, dude, whatever. Say whatever you want about me. But last time I checked, you don't have to be necessarily one of the guys all the time in order to succeed as a quarterback. Because I'm positive people aren't partying and hanging out with Aaron Rodgers. His family doesn't hang out with him. He can't find one woman to stay with. Okay? So give me a break here, dude. And Russell Wilson's as straight and narrow just like Tua. It's the weirdest thing. But again, it's a different story for Tua than everybody else. Oh, his arm, it isn't big enough. Well, okay, so let's go through this. Before we even got Chad Pennington, when he first got into the league, his arm wasn't strong either, but he could win and do anything he needed to do. So could Bob Greasy, and so could Drew Brees. There's tons of quarterbacks that have had success in the league, and they don't have rocket arms. Joe Montana had no rocket arm. He had a nice arm, like Tua. Nice arm. But he won everything too. Lots of quarterbacks have played. No, but Tua can't do it. Others can. No, but Tua has to be part of one of the guys. But wait a minute. Russell Wilson isn't one of the guys, and he wins. You know what Beasley goes to me? Well, he's won a championship. What does that have to do with it? I said, Tua won a championship in Alabama. I'm sorry. Russell didn't. Tua did. What's the difference? Has nothing to do with the championship. Russell was the same guy, straight and narrow. Do you think Jeter was partying with his teammates every night? No, dude, Jeter was probably the smart one. And went on his own road, went behind the scenes, out with a babe, whatever, never out in the mix with all that stuff. I mean, this whole thing that, oh, no, well, Tua's got to do this, brother, he's doing what he can do. But what he has to do is play on the field. In the end, they don't care what you're doing off the field. Oh, you got to be one of the guys, what, like Aaron Hernandez, and go out killing people in your off time? So you can be a killer and you're all right being, on the team. Because it doesn't look to me like Aaron Hernandez was the kind of guy that a lot of people wanted to hang out with. A Neanderthal with no IQ that is just like an animal with clothes on. Yeah, no, I'm sure that the tons were gravitating to him. There's this double standard when it comes to this kid that I've never seen before in my life. And when you explain to people and they say, well, he's got to do this, this, and this. Oh, wait a minute. This guy does this, this, and this, and this. And then it like kills your explanation. And then where do you go? And this is what happens all the time with this kid. There's like this incredible, like he played all right today, actually. Did he make a couple of mistakes? Yeah. Javon Holland's going to force you into force any QB into making mistakes. The guy's a star. That guy will make Tua better. That's what you want. You want to have some ball hawks out there. And like I told you, the second one was a Christmas gift from Tua. The first one, Javon Holland earned, stole, and was a sweet play. The second one was a gift. It was a bad throw by Tua that he put too much air on it. So all right. If you want to get in, 855-912-1056. That's 855-912-1056. Ray Grullon, thank you, sir. Howdy. Oh, hey, if you're listening, Brian Flores was a capital weirdo, not Tua. Can't wait for the kid to shut up all the pundits. Exactly. That's a weirdo. That guy Flores was a weirdo. Okay. Hey, Sean, send Rap a link. I thought I sent him one. And I don't know. I guess he did not get it. So I don't know what to tell you. We are waiting for Ian Rapoport to join us here on Le Programme. So we'll talk to Ian. Ian is ready to go. He was going to do it at 4, but it looks like he's a little early and ready to go. So we'll get Ian Rapoport on. Let's see. I guess Marino didn't throw picks in practice. Everybody throws picks in practice. But I don't have a problem watching guys win on defense too. And it's like we make it sound, and you're so right, John. Like people make it sound like every quarterback's perfect in practice and doesn't make any mistakes. And of course they're going to make a bunch of mistakes. They all make mistakes. They all force things. Like yesterday in the 3 interceptions, one of them was kind of like this drill that you're throwing it into like 800 people, and it was just kind of weird. That one, you kind of looked at it and you said, yeah, it's hard to complete in the first place. And I don't know what the hell they were trying. The other two, his fault. For sure. And both today were his fault. You know what I mean? Javon had both, but the second one was kind of a gift. You know what I mean? It was one of those where, you put too much air on it. You're allowing me to get back into the play, which happens with all kinds of quarterbacks. Big arm quarterbacks, all of that, because it's a matter of touch down the field. And you've got to have the right touch. And in his case, he had to kind of lead him a little better. And he's an anticipatory thrower. So part of that, whether you're Montana, you're Drew Brees, you're Bob Greasy, you're Chad Pennington, it's a different way of quarterbacking. When you're Cam Newton, even though he doesn't have accuracy, But Cam Newton is a guy that can wait for the break and then throw it because he's got a cannon for an arm. Other guys are throwing to spots where the player is going to be. All right. Our player is in position to win. His name is Ian Rapoport. Our Red Recover look around the NFL is next.
Football fans, it's time to take a look around the NFL. It's the RedRecover.com look around the NFL with Ian Rapoport. RedRecover.com helps pros and everyday warriors heal on the go with our medical-grade, highly specialized devices designed for each area of the body. Go to RedRecover.com to learn more about red light with videos, blog posts, and over 40 years of medical research to treat pain, inflammation, and overall well-being. Now, let's find out the latest in the NFL with one of the best reporters in the business, Ian Rapoport.
All righty, there he is. How you feeling, my man? You feeling good?
What's going on? I'm in your home state right now. Not in your city, but in your state.
Where you at, in Jacksonville or Tampa?
Jacksonville. Yeah, Jacksonville. Did Tampa for the Miami joint practices, but now in Jacksonville today. Headed out to Buffalo tonight, as a matter of fact.
Okay. All right. Oh, that's the one that that's the carrot on the leading the way in this division. That's the team that Miami has got to try to catch up to. They are absolutely loaded. You know, I was talking about this today because Javon Holland is just a fantastic player. And to think that this front office was forced to trade Minka because Flo and him didn't get along, and then you go and get Javon Holland. This front office has drafted 2 of the 5 young best safeties in the league right now in those 2 guys in the last couple of years. It is amazing. So he made a couple of interceptions today. One was phenomenal. The other one was an underthrow by Tua, so it was a gift. But, you know, I was talking about this, how anticipatory throwers have to adjust when they get to this league. It's not that they can't succeed. From Greasy to Breeze to Montana to, you know, now Tua, you know, all kinds of guys. Now, the Josh Allens of the world and the Justin Herberts and the Cam Newtons and all those kind of guys, they can do things that other guys can't. They can wait for a half a second more for the receiver because they've got cannons, you know, although Cam doesn't have the accuracy that you would like. But can you talk a little bit about the challenge in the history of the game? Because it took Drew Brees a couple of years to kind of figure out the timing of the NFL. You know what I mean? So talk a little bit about that and the challenge for those kind of quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're that kind of a thrower, an anticipatory thrower, someone who, you know, throws guys open and, you know, really basically throws to a spot knowing that your guy is going to get there, you just have to be smarter. You have to be able to anticipate. You have to have an intuitive feel for the game. And you have to be smarter, and that's not for everyone. You're right. Like, you know, Cam Newton was among several who would see a guy open and then just absolutely rifle it in there. That's okay. Like, as long as you have a strong enough arm, you can do that. There are other guys, you know, you included Tua. I would say, you know, Breeze is one. There's been
Montana was like that. Montana didn't have a gun either, dude. Montana.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Brady's kind of like that too, where it's not really about arm strength. It's about, like, I know where my guy is precisely going to be on his 7th step, so I'm going to throw it there, and then he's going to catch it and keep running.
As big as Peyton Manning was, he didn't have a cannon, actually.
Right.
You know?
It's the same sort of thing. So it's just, you know, there's just not as much margin for error because you have to know everything and you have to be right as far as the timing and where everyone's going to be. Plenty of ways to get it done. That one puts the onus on smarts and intuition rather than just raw athletic ability.
Yeah, and I think he has it, and I think it's just one of those processes. And one, I think he actually has shown it to you in the first 2 years under the worst conditions.
Yeah.
If you actually give him a running game and an offensive line and a really good play caller and a quarterback's coach, oh my God, he might have what he had in Alabama. And then all of a sudden, guess what? He's going to have success. So to me, that's kind of and I get it. I'm president of Tuanon. So yep. I'm not seeing the reality.
Have you been elevated to president?
I think I'm pretty close to it. When it comes to the media, I'm pretty sure of that. When it comes to media, I don't.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I think I'm the guy that, because I believe in the kid. I think he's not the problem. I think everything else around him was so effed up that it's so hard to succeed. Listen, man, when you're the least sacked quarterback behind the worst line and no running game in the NFL, that's impressive. When you see the former quarterback that was here, who had 2 running backs and an offensive line, and he's the most sacked quarterback in the NFL last year, that tells you all you need to know. If you fix things and you give Tua what Tannehill has in Tennessee, what Kirk Cousins has in Minnesota, what some of these other quarterbacks have, I think you'll see a much better quarterback. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the hope is that you're right. Now, obviously, there's different ways to build a championship winning team. You can, basically just have a great quarterback with a lot of weapons. You can build around a average quarterback and have great infrastructure, great offensive line, great defensive line, great weapons, have the quarterback just distribute along with the run game. Like, there's a lot of ways to do it. I'd say even if the Dolphins end up as just having just an average quarterback who keeps things rolling, hands the ball off, and gets in the hands of their playmakers, like, that is fine. Just, again, it's a smaller margin for error if things don't go great, but you could definitely win like that. I'll say that.
Is it as bad as they're saying in New England, dude? Because, like, man, it is not sounding good, Ian. I mean, far be it from me to be worried about or concerned. But no, seriously, like, what the hell is going on in New England there? The reports don't sound good.
Yeah, I mean, I would, it's the Patriots, it's Bill Belichick, so I would sort of temper expectations that they're going to be terrible. They always figure it out. For 20 years more, they have always figured it out. And, what they will not be afraid to do, though, I would say, is they will not be afraid to use this time and even into the season to experiment, to see what works, to see how the best they can play, to figure out which play caller is the best, to see which scheme is the best. Like, they don't mind going into October and being like, yeah, we'll see. Well, we'll figure something out, because they always do. And they're always one of the best football teams in the NFL in November and December. So, I think they're going to be fine. I would expect Belichick to take a very heavy hand in the offense this year. I don't know about calling it, but be very involved, similar to what he was last year with the defense. And I think all that is something that has led everyone to lose their minds. But in the end, one thing we always know for the last 20 years, the Patriots are going to be absolutely fine.
Yeah, it's almost like maybe they'll start off a little rough and they'll continue like what they normally do, right? That they, as the season goes on, they get better. The only thing
just a little bit better, yeah.
Yeah, the only thing is, I don't know if I buy that offense. That's my problem. That to me is, whether it's the offensive coordinator, the fact that you don't have that Scarnecchia there anymore. And you haven't had him there for the last couple of years, obviously. But still, I just, when I look at that talent, when I look at the receivers, it doesn't seem like an offense that's scary.
Yeah, but they've never been an offense that's scary. That's what's interesting, is they play great situational football.
Brady scares you.
Yeah, I mean, with the game on the line, you think Brady's going to make a play. But it's not like they're like the Chiefs' offense is scary.
Yes.
Like that is. And there's others, like, if you get on the wrong side of the Ravens offense, like, that can be scary. Like, there's some scary but it's never been the Patriots. They've been more of like situational football, play you well, down in, down out, drive down, kick a field goal, win the game, move on to the next team that you're going to beat, just like that. Like, that's the way the Patriots have been. So, like, to me, knowing what I know, I don't see why they won't be exactly like that this year, even with all of the sort of consternation and angst before the preseason even is finished.
Who do you think is second in that division? Because obviously only an idiot doesn't pick the Bills. I mean, unless you're a complete homer, as much as I root for the Dolphins, they're not the best team in the division. I think the Bills are, but I think the Dolphins are going to prove to be the second best team in the division. I think they're going to beat the Patriots. They beat them twice last year, and I think the Dolphins are much better this year than they were last year. So I like my Dolphins here to be the second team in the division. Who do you think is going to be the second team in the AFC East?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, if Tua takes a big step forward, it should be the Dolphins. And I agree the personnel is better. You know, what we don't know is how much of the defense we saw was Brian Flores and how much of it was the rest of the staff. Like, that's going to really determine how good the defense is, because if Flores was the one calling the defense, holding this thing together, then that unit might take a step back, even as the offense takes a step up. Was Flores just the head coach and the defense is going to stay with it, then they're going to be fine. So, but I mean, I think the Dolphins certainly have the tools to get there. I think they can, challenge the Bills, certainly. But again, like when you're talking about, not being sure about the Patriots, they have 20 years of success when everyone's like, yeah, I don't think this will be the year. Like this is sort of when they're at their best.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. When you look at the Green Bay situation, it reminds me a lot of Brady, where they didn't really go all out at wide receiver to help him and bring some names in.
Right.
And it's kind of the same thing over the last couple of years. I know they drafted a kid this year too, but still, does he have enough? And the pressures of making the franchise quarterback elevate everyone and not help him by giving him a weapon or two that can make his life super easy. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, you lost Devontae Adams and to not fill the coffers with a Pro Bowl receiver, like that's noted. Now, I mean, I'm curious if they can be just as productive in offense or even almost as productive in offense while spreading the ball around, because Devontae Adams got it so much. But if they are more well-rounded this year, does that end up benefiting the offense as a whole, because Rodgers can just kind of throw to whoever's open rather than having to worry about a true number one? Maybe, we'll see. But that's kind of one of the big questions for me. I mean, that's, the Packers should be really good. Hearing Rodgers, I don't know, express some public thoughts on where his receivers are, at least that caught my eye. I don't know how much it'll matter, but at least that caught my eye as far as, like, maybe he's not exactly 100% thrilled with where everyone's at.
I'm going to ask you a question now.
Okay.
And I think it's a fair question. And they're both kind of in the same position because they both lost their stud. Now, one of them has a better tight end than the other, but still. So, who's going to be the better offense and the higher ranked and the more productive offense this year? Kansas City or the Packers?
My guess is Kansas City. I would.
Andy Reid effect, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean the Packers have some of that too, in that they have a system that's so good that I think they're going to be productive regardless. But Andy Reid is so good and is such a great job every year reinventing himself. I'm not saying Tyreek is not a great player, because he certainly is a great player. But I think they're going to be able to scheme without him being there. I think they will be fine. And actually it might be better, for both sides that trade happened, because I think defensively, the Chiefs probably got a little better as well, especially if you look at, we'll see where the draft picks end up. It's certainly possible.
What are you working on in the NFL Network so folks can check you out, Ian Rapoport?
Well, I'm going to Buffalo tonight, and, we'll see if something ends up happening with this Deshaun Watson situation. Obviously working on that. And otherwise, man, it's time to gear up for the season. We're getting closer. It's a very good thing.
Don't you love that I went this whole segment without Watson? Like I was like, man, I'm not doing this again. It's like every week I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it.
If this were last year, we would have had to discuss Deshaun every single time. Every single time. So a little less this time. A little less.
I know. I'm just glad the Dolphins aren't in that mess, dude, because then we would have been, having to deal with the whole crap.
Oh,
all right.
Yeah. Yep.
I know. All right. Much love, my brother. We will catch up next week. Be safe in your travels. Enjoy the Anchor Bar, right? You got to go, right?
I'm absolutely done. So, yes, I will. Thank you, man. Take care.
You got it. There you go. Ian Rapoport, baby. That's our look around the NFL.
You You've been listening to the RedRecover.com Look Around the NFL with Ian Rapoport from the NFL Network. RedRecover.com's wraps and pads are designed to deliver maximum benefits with each treatment anywhere you go. Go to RedRecover.com to learn more about red light with videos, blog posts, and over 40 years of medical research to treat pain, inflammation, and overall well-being. Use code BIG-O for 10% off. The RedRecover.com Look Around the NFL with Ian Rapoport is mastered by executive producer Sean Stanley.
Yes, it is. Mastered by Sean Stanley. That's what it's all about. All right, welcome back. We 5 o'clock, by the way, we will have Inside the Paint with your Ira Winderman and Kurt Heelan. So they'll give you one hardcore hour of basketball and Heat talk. It's a beautiful thing. All right, what else going on today in the world of sports? It's the conversation about Jimmy Garoppolo, right? And it's funny because we're talking earlier before Ian about Omar Kelly's comments on Tua being kind of a weirdo and all that, I don't know if you guys saw this story, and this is like, it blows you away that something like this would happen. But when Jimmy Garoppolo signed his big contract, listen to this. When the press conference for his new contract ended, Garoppolo shook hands, flashed his multi-million-dollar smile, and disappeared into the offseason ether. That important work, to his coach's chagrin, would have to wait. Once he left that press conference, nobody heard from him for weeks and weeks. One member of the coaching staff said he didn't return calls, he didn't return texts, he basically just vanished. And we were looking at each other going, what just happened? So think about that. It's again, double standard, because if you talk to my boy Omar, he loves Jimmy Garoppolo. Remember that conversation we've had with Omar, and we would talk Garoppolo, and he's like a big Garoppolo guy. And I love Garoppolo coming out. All right. I saw him at Middle Tennessee State at the East West Shrine. And I told Dolphin fans, hey, man, this is a guy you might be able to get in the third or fourth round. They invite him to the Senior Bowl the following week, and his stock explodes, and he goes in the second round to the Patriots. A little too high, but whatever. And he's turned out to be a decent quarterback. But in the end, it's injuries or that one throw that still has stopped him from being that guy. And yet, remember that conversation? I said, Omar, you got to take the L. I took the L already. I like the kid, but he's had enough to prove. He doesn't get it done. But yet, Tua's the weirdo, and here's Garoppolo, who signs a contract and disappears off the face of the earth for a couple months, which no quarterback does that. You need to be around. You need to be truly invested. I think Tua is. I believe he's truly invested. Yet you see the Garoppolo story, and, like in Omar's opinion, he's the weirdo. So then what the hell is Jimmy Garoppolo? This is what I mean about the double standard. And even from my man Omar, too, where he's like, well, I'm a big Garoppolo guy, but you're not a Tua guy. But yet you say Tua's the weird guy because he doesn't communicate with his teammates, but then there's Jimmy Garoppolo disappearing for months. I mean, there's no right way or wrong way to do it. You just got to prove that you can play. That's what it's all about. Perfect cue. Jimmy Garoppolo looks like Christopher Reeves. Maybe a Superman movie in his future. He definitely has the GQ look. There's no doubt about that. Big O, please tell me who's been Miami's best coach in the past 10 years, because it sure hell is not Flores. How about this, Steven? You haven't had a great coach here since Don Shula. You can keep all the people that have come since Don Shula and Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy did a nice job building the defense. He did nothing else. Nothing else. He made Marino's career a hell at the end, and he did a piss poor job on offense, and he was an embarrassment in the playoffs. So there isn't a coach worth a damn that has come after Don Shula. So it's up to Mike McDaniel to become the first. Because if you settle for anything we've had in the past, you have very low standards. That's the truth. If you're honest with yourself, there isn't a damn coach that's worth anything since Don Shula in a Dolphins uniform. Okay? Jimmy did a nice job. I get it. He got to the playoffs a couple times, and he built the defense. But his performances in the playoffs were just pathetic. And he left with his tail between his legs. So he doesn't get a break from me on that one. John says, Omar is the weirdo. Big O, Tua's coming along with this new offense. It doesn't matter, Dean. You know, I know what your agenda is, my brother. Your only agenda is here to slam Tua and be negative against Tua and all that stuff. Like I told you yesterday, my brother, I already read through your bullshit. So it's all good. But I appreciate you watching and tuning in. Big O still chirping about the jabs these days. I don't know about the jabs these days. I don't know what that means. I'm curious on your thoughts on McDaniel. Love him. I've talked about him many, many times. I like what I see from him. Now he's got to prove that he can do it on game day. That's all. Everything else I like about him. But, you know, none of it means anything until you get to game time. So that's the final test for Mike McDaniel will be what he does from one week to another and how he handles and puts out fires and how he puts his team in a position to be successful. Play in and play out, week in, week out. Let's see if he can do that. That's it. But I like how he carries himself. I like the way he connects with people. There's a lot to like about Mike McDaniel. Now let's see if it all works. That's the bottom line. Karen says, from your experience, is it generally harder for the offense towards the end of training camp than at the beginning because the defense has a better understanding of the offensive scheme? Well, and they also know, you know, all the tendencies of the players are playing because they're playing with them often. So they know all their habits. They kind of know almost pretty much most of the play calls because they're kind of generic. Unless we're not there, that maybe then they can mix it up a little bit. No, I don't think there's an advantage one way or another at one part or another of the preseason and training camp. I've seen it both ways. And it all depends on how good your offense is and how good your defense is. And what you want to see, really, what you want to see is both of them winning and both of them losing. Because it can't be your offense only having success and your defense only having success. That's not good. That would be terrible. And lately, before this year, a lot of times it was the defense mostly having the success, not the offense. You've seen more offensive success in this training camp than the last couple of years under Flo. And that's because I think the offense is going to be much better. And they haven't even really unleashed the entire playbook. They haven't even unleashed any part of that playbook, very little of it. And that's the part that I'm excited about. Because Mike McDaniel, one of the things that I talked about all last year when you were listening to the show, if you were listening to the show, was play calling and play design were just they were I don't know, it was just catastrophic. It was disastrous. It did not complement the players. It did not help them from one down to another, from one series to another. There was no rhyme or reason. It was like they were just picking plays to pick plays and not learning how to set people up and learning how to decipher. Well, not learning, but showing everybody how you decipher and broke down that defense. And I think that's what we're going to see now. And I think play call and play design will be so much better now. And that's going to be a huge plus for Tua because he will have a real quarterbacks coach. He's going to have a real offensive coordinator. And hopefully the line and the running game are working. And if they are, then I think everything is going to fall into place. I think the offense has had its successes, and I think it could have even more success once you're actually game planning. But time will tell. Time will tell. Big O, I don't know if you mentioned this, Selmar says, but before Diggs, Josh Allen was nothing, and now Diggs, he's the top 2 QB. Finn's getting Hill can turn 2 in a top 5 QB. We will find out, my friend. We will find out. I think it's not just that, but I think it's also the coaching. That's also incredibly important. Anyone that doesn't get the jab is a fool. Oh, you talk about the vaccine? Well, it's up to you, dude. You know, many have died from it. You know what I love is the idiots, probably like yourself, Jerry Walker. The idiots that come to me and say, "Well, it's like the cold." Yeah, right. I know 5 people that died from COVID. I know no one, and I'm 55. In 45 days, I'll be 56 years old. I know no one that's ever died from the cold, and I know it happens. It's rare, but it happens. So, but that's fine, bro. Whatever. Hey, man. You don't want to take it. That's your choice. You know what I mean? I certainly don't give a shit, but apparently you care about it for me. So, I guess it bothers you. I'm not on your timeline, my brother. I'm not on your show. You're here on our show. And I guess it bothers you, my opinion. But for me, I really don't give a shit if you don't have it or not. I've got 5 stents in my heart. I'm vaccine and boosted and very proud and very happy that I am, my brother. Vaccines have been a part of my life. Measles, all that stuff. We needed them to go to school. You want to make it something that it really isn't? You go ahead, Jerry Walker. You go ahead, buddy. Politicize it. Go for it. It's up to you, my man. Do whatever you want. Let's take a break. Hour number 2 is next.
The Big O Radio Show is looking for partners to join our growing platform. If your business is ready to reach an audience that starts in Florida, crosses the nation while expanding internationally, this is the program that provides that vehicle. The Big O Radio Show is ready to broadcast live anywhere in the world to represent your event or product. To reach out by phone, 786-754-4664. That's 786-754-4664. Or email bigoradioshow@yahoo.com. Help us grow as we provide the content and personal connection corporate entities will never achieve.
If you're a Miami sports fan, then there's only one store to go to, and that's Caneswear at Miami Fanwear in Davie. They're your one-stop shop for all your inner Miami CS, Canes, Dolphins, Panthers, and Marlins merchandise. They have hats, t-shirts, game day jerseys, and so much more. Located at 2511 South University Drive in Davie, and open 24/7 online at caneswear.com or innermiamiwear.com. Call them at 954-835-5597. Caneswear, the spot where inner Miami and all Miami sports fans shop.
Welcome to Red Light Therapy, a revolutionary technology perfected by NASA to aid in muscle strengthening and recovery. Red and infrared light has the capacity to penetrate deep into the cell's mitochondria, potentially leading to increased energy, faster recovery, and the optimal performance your body demands. Evolve your training and step into the new era of muscle recovery. Red Recover.
Why is it that you get locked out in the worst moments of your life?
Where are my car keys? Man, I can't find my house keys.
In those frustrating moments, you need a locksmith you can count on. A. Lenny Locksmiths in South Florida, from Miami to Port St. Lucie. In Central Florida, A. Lenny locks it down in Orlando and Tampa Bay. Lockouts or lock changes for home or business. Car key replacements and programming all model cars. 24-hour service. Call them at 855-869-5625. Go to the website at alennylocksmith.com.
For over 16 years, EJDconstruction.com has provided South Florida residents quality craftsmanship, accurate project management, and exceptional service. That's why EJDconstruction.com is an A-rated member of Angie's List and the Better Business Bureau. When you're looking for the right custom home builder for additions or home remodeling, please call my friend Eric at 305-433-4843. That's 305-433-4843 for EJDconstruction.com.
The viewpoint statements or beliefs expressed on the following program by the host, guests, or callers are not necessarily the opinions of FantasyXS.com, Media Group Inc., ownership, management, sponsors, or website. When it comes to South Florida sports teams, very few in the media have witnessed, lived, and covered it like the Big O. Let's start the program dedicated to your favorite South Florida teams with a passion that's unmatched. The Big O Radio Show is on. Here's the Big O.
You know what I love? I love fans that live in panic and negativity all the time. D-Menace20. Any chance we get better at our O-line, most concerning for all the run and pass plays. I had no idea the season started and they were already failing. Let me explain something to all of you out there. No media member in South Florida, or pretty much in all 32 cities, they can't tell you if a team has never run before, right? Obviously, if you're like the Ravens, right? That's all they do is run. You figure they're going to have they had a whole bunch of injuries last year, running back. So you figure they'll get their running backs back now and they'll be healthy. And one thing they can do with the quarterback is run, right? So you can assume they're going to run the ball. But, a team that doesn't run the ball like Miami, that hasn't had a lot of success running the ball, and now they've changed it up. They brought in a couple linemen. They got a new scheme, all that going on. Let me explain something to D-Mace20 and everyone else out there, okay? If you see a team, you're covering whatever team in the NFL. We're just going to use the Carolina Panthers as an example. And they haven't had success running. Forget about what players they have now or anything, okay? I'm not talking about McCaffrey or anything. And you're at camp, and the way they run practice now, and you walk out of there and you tell your Carolina Panther fans, oh, I'm convinced they're going to run the ball. You're full of shit. Oh, I'm convinced they can't run the ball. You're full of shit. Do you know why you're full of shit? Because they don't hit enough in practice anymore to actually know if you can run the ball. They don't tackle. I love when guys, the riders, and I love the riders, but when you're breaking down a running play, when there's really no hitting, no tackling, today one of the media members said to me, oh, I'd really like to see Raekwon Davis, pick it up more here in practice. I'm like, he can't. You're a defensive tackle, dude. It's hard. You can't go all out. You got to play with a nastiness. You want to hit somebody. You can't really hit your own teammates anymore. You can't tackle. You can't bring them to the ground. How do you really know if you can do it? So this offensive line might be amazing this year. They may freak us out. And they may be terrible. Or they may be average. But none of us are really going to know until they actually start playing. Because I've been at practice the last couple of weeks. It's garbage. Not the practice itself of the players or anything. Preparation for the NFL season, please, dude. Please. 15, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I'm going to two-a-days, and they're hitting. You know how Jimmy Johnson would start practice? With an inside drill. That was short yardage, goal line, all out, hitting, tackling, bam. That's how he started practice. They don't do that anymore. They don't even do that in practice nowadays. And he would do it twice a day. I know Shula did 3-a-days. And I get it. You got to take care of players, this, that, whatever. But at least back then, you had a better feel for a team and what they were going to be. You remember the year that they had Lamar Smith and, what's the name of the guard that they got from the Bills? He was overweight. Jamie Nails. And so those were two-a-days in those days, okay? And I'm watching this, and I get on the radio, IQAM, and I said, the Dolphins will run the ball this year. But you know why I saw it? Because I saw them for two-a-days, and they're hitting. And I'm watching big-ass Jamie Nails come out of his spot and pull and just run people over. And I'm going, holy shit, what the hell is going on here? I've never seen this. Wait a minute, am I watching the Dolphins? And I told fans they were going to run. And sure enough, they had a running game. But nowadays, I can't tell you that right now. I'd be lying to you. And so would every other writer out there. They're all guessing. If somebody tells you right now, I'm convinced they can run or I'm convinced they won't run, they're lying. They're guessing. There isn't any kind of hitting in camp that prepares you for this. Practice nowadays is soft as hell. It really is. Like the way they have negotiated all of this, it's not really good practice for the tough part about football. The finesse side, corners and receivers and all that kind of stuff, you might get a better feel for that. Get a feel for what the quarterback, has a feel for the offense and he has a good rhythm with his players, his teammates, his receivers and tight ends. Okay, great. But when it comes to the run game, stopping the run or running the ball, the physical part inside, training camp does not get you prepared for that. I'm sorry. And preseason doesn't either. They barely played in this game. Most of your starters. And you're going to give them like a half before the season starts out of the 3 games. You think that really prepares you for a regular season? Hell no. So we're really not going to know if the Dolphins can actually punch people in the mouth and run the ball successfully until they actually get through maybe the first 6-7 weeks of the season. And then we'll see, because you hope that what you start with is not where you're at in week 6 or 7, that you're much better. So I don't expect them to be perfect early on, obviously. New coach, new scheme, all that stuff, new players. But I do expect them to get better. Now, how much better? How effective will they be? None of us really know. None of us really know. It's just one of those deals. Remember, Craig Zinn's Acura Pembroke Pines celebrating their 14th anniversary, folks. Have you seen the 2023 Integra? My Lord, what a sharp car that is. That is such a beautiful car. And as you all know, Acura is one of the most reliable vehicles in the world. We've had 3 of them in our family. My wife currently has an RDX right now, and I actually can't wait till they get an electric car in there. They've got the TLX. They've got the RDX. They've got some of the 2022s and 2023 models are now starting to roll in, folks. The Integra, by the way, is $369 a month. That lease feature is absolutely outstanding. They're celebrating their 14th anniversary at 15601 Pines Boulevard, just off of I-75 in Pines. And they have been the number one volume sales dealership now for 12 years in a row. Tell them that Big O sent you. They will take care of you, folks, at Craig's Inns, Acura of Pembroke Pines. Let's see. What else do we have? If you watch Titans practice, you see the smallest secondary player run at Henry to touch him, and it's a tackle according to the media reports. In games, that could be a very different outcome. Yeah, you'll be runned over. Yeah. Brian Walter says it's a country club now. Yeah, it's really not good, to be quite honest. I walk out of there and I'm like, yeah, it's nice to see it and all that, but it's not really what I grew up with, what I grew up actually watching. Real practicing, real hitting, some tackling, all of that stuff. Canes 1989. Big O, I hope these are not the same old Dolphins in recent years. They get us all excited, then it's what just happened. Yeah, I'm with you, but I like what I see. I think it's going to be a much better offense, but they still have to prove it to us. But I like what McDaniel's all about. But it really is down to the key of blocking. And they're not going to have great success without those five guys getting it done. That's the important part. They've got to get it done. And if they don't, then that's not good, man. That's not good. Trent Sherfield, by the way, had, again, another hell of a day. The five positions are locked. Tyreek and Waddle, Cedric, and Ezukama, the fourth-round pick. Of course he's going to make the team. He's their draft pick, but he's looked good. It's not a fourth-round pick that you're like, well, he's the, developmental guy, fourth round. They're not going to cut him. They'll give him time. No, he's looked good. So you got to give Ezukama a little love. He's played well. And then Sherfield has locked in that fifth spot. It's just he looks dependable as hell, bro. He's just a fantastic complementary player. You really like what you see from Trent. I'm excited to see him as a special teamer. I want to see how good he is on special teams. Because if he's as good on special teams as what I'm seeing as a wide receiver, then you've got yourself a really nice number 5 wide receiver. Then the question is, are you going to keep a 6? And will Lynn Bowden or Craycraft or any of these guys force them to keep the 6th guy? And I think it'll be between one of those two guys. I think Braylon Sanders has a chance. Not a chance. I think he's made the practice squad. I do. So one of their undrafted guys in Braylon Sanders is going to make the practice squad. And 2 of their 7th rounders, Cameron Good and Skylar Thompson, are going to make the 53. Oh, yeah. They're not releasing Skylar. They're not going to take that chance again like they did with Reed Sinnett. This time, they're going to keep him on the 53. And like I told you the other day, the key is that your backups now have to be multifaceted players. You cannot have people sitting there on the bench and they can't help you out on special teams. And you can't have people who are that the guy's a decent special teamer, but he's really weak in his position, i.e. Eguavon. Can't do that. Got to be better than that. Thoughts on Elijah Campbell's chances of making the roster? Coworker of mine is related and wants to know. I told her it depends on his special teams play. That's exactly it. He's a back-end guy that is battling for a special teams spot. Right now, he is in the mix for one of those final spots, but it's kind of like, on the outside looking in, but at least he's not like Preston Williams, who's done. Like, forget it. Quincy Wilson, I don't think you're going to make it, that kind of stuff. There's a couple of those kind of guys that you look at and you say, but at least I'll give this kid, Elijah, a little bit of a chance because he's got a shot on special teams, but he's got to be Studley there, man. Cap for Life says, I really like what I'm hearing about the wide receiving core. Yeah, the wide receiving core is good. Big O, whatever happened to Ed Kaplan? I haven't talked to Ed in a while. I know he's retired, obviously, from the business, but don't know what he's doing. I think he's just enjoying his retirement. Love Ed, man. That's that was one of my inspirations for getting into this business. Was listening to Ed Kaplan, till the last West Coast score. And when I got to start filling in for him at 940 wins, that was the high of all highs for me right there. When I got the job at Wins and I was working at Radio Acción and we were owned by Paxson. They brought us into the building and we were in the second floor with 940 Wins. And when I would do my show at night, Ed was doing his show at 940 and we'd be doing it simultaneously. And then sometimes Ed would need a fill-in and he would use me. He had other guys and I was like, third, fourth, fifth in line. And then I slowly but surely climbed that ladder where I became like the first guy in line. Well, it was Jicka. Jicka was always first because Jicka was his buddy. And then I ended up becoming number two. Jicka was always right there. Love Tom Jicka. He was a trip. And I'm a monster Ed Kaplan fan and love that man, dude. He was just a really good dude and always kind with me, always helped me. I can't say enough good things about Ed Kaplan. It's impossible. And the dumbest thing in the world, this is the perfect thing about our business. Follow me on this, okay? You got a guy that comes on at 10 o'clock at night, is willing to stay to the last West Coast score, can talk, he can carry a conversation, he doesn't need phone calls, he can continue and talking, he can go into one thing and another, and he's fantastic, okay? Great sports talk show host. Not only that, listen to me, this is the part of our business that's all screwed up. So you have a guy from 10 to 2 who not only does a great job and has an audience and a following, because everybody loved Ed Kaplan pretty much. Lots of people listen to Ed. Even the people that may not have liked so much his stuff, they would always listen to him because they knew that he would drop nuggets and information and gambling information. And they knew, even if you didn't like Ed Kaplan, let's just say, you knew he knew his shit. Because you knew he followed sports and he tracked everything. Okay. Now, so professionally, he does the job. Okay. Now, from 10 to 2 in the morning, he had all the pari-mutuels. They all advertised on his show. Every high life Ronton, every dog, every horse. You were making money at a time in radio from 10 to 2 in the morning where you make no money, where you just pipe in syndication. So you're going to fire someone who's productive, incredibly productive, strip clubs, all this. He had it all, and he was great in his live reads. Fantastic at reading a commercial. So you fire that? I'm sorry. And you never replaced it. So what's better, syndication that produces no money and has no connection to your community? Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, you got out of the movies at 11:30 or at 12:30, and you said, let me hear Ed Kaplan, see what happened tonight, see what's going on. That was automatic. But that's our business. You fire productive people. You let go of people that produce money. When I saw Jade Alexander get released, I go, no wonder none of us have a shot. Jade Alexander is one of the more beautiful people in the world. I'm not talking about her looks. I'm talking about she's a great person. She had an incredible reputation in our building. She was magnificent with sponsors. She had all kinds of sponsors. She was a pleasure to work with in every way, shape, or form. It's impossible not to like her. Everyone liked her. I didn't know her that well. I met her in passing once or twice in the building. Don't really know her that well, but I know of her and the incredible respect in our business that she has. You fire that. That's why Odyssey is, they're cutting back 5% more, and they're on the brink of, I told you over a year ago they were going to go bankrupt, and they were going to file bankruptcy. That's the problem in our business. You fire productive people. It's like, these are the things that happen in our business that you just like go scratching your head going, what? And then you wonder why you're bleeding now and your company's gone down to shit because you don't care about human beings. And then the human beings that actually produce for you, you don't take care of them. So, Ray Sosa says, if you had to go with your gut feeling when it's all said and done, do you think Inter Miami will grab the last playoff spot? No, Ray. No. They will not grab the last playoff spot. They will have number 5 or 6. They're going to climb. I'm seeing a team that from the beginning of the season has only gotten better and needs to get healthy and get everybody back. And I think they're starting to do that now and get those guys back and get Pozuelo in the mix and all that, and Coco and get Campana in there and all that. And you start to do that as the season finishes off. They're not only going to have 7, they may have 5 or 6. How do you like them apples? Okay. They got a shot to climb. So I say they will get the 5th or 6th spot, not the 7th spot. We're going to enjoy some MLS playoffs this year with Inter. They're finally going to get into the playoffs. Not that crap shit play-in game. Plus the team wasn't that good. Now, not that they're going to win a title or anything, but they're fun now. They're an aggressive team. I think Neville's done a really good job overall. Let's see. Polly says a lot of people say if you don't hear about any old linemen, then they're doing their job. Have you noticed about the undrafted tackle? He's I haven't noticed enough to say that he is good or not. So I'd be lying to you, Polly King, to tell you that, because they practice a lot on the far side of the field and it's hard to tell a lot of times. So I'd be lying to you if I told you, whether he's going to cross the threshold and make the team or practice squad or get cut, something like that. I'd be lying to you, my brother. I don't know enough about him to say, and again, they don't hit enough. So it's just hard. It really is. Ray is correct. Smash the like button, please. Very important. Pablo Lozenges is still struggling. Gave up 2-out grand slam. Well, that's not ever good. A 2-out grand slam. Just want you to know that. Juice F5 says Eddie K, the best. And syndication sucks. Yes, it does. It's funny because you see how they made 790 pretty much in all betting and all that. It's such garbage radio. It really is. And they're losing their asses. They really are. It's such a poorly run company. I'm happy because obviously we have zero competition here. I don't have to worry about a damn thing. You know what I mean? So that's the good thing. It's not like I'm going to have anybody competing against me for services or anybody or talent or anything. They have no money. They have no motivation, and they have no leadership whatsoever. So I kind of like this. I have no problem with that. Makes my life a lot easier. And sports fans, I think they're finding out this is really the only true sports platform in South Florida that services all of the sports here in South Florida and with the best insiders. Nobody even comes close. So, it's just one of those things that I do love the fact that they've made my life a lot easier. Does that include Tobin and Leroy? No, I'm talking about the syndication, that gambling stuff. Tobin and Leroy do a good job. They'll be in Joe's spot at the end of the year. When Joe leaves at the end of the year, they'll move. That's why they kept those guys around, to take that spot when Joe leaves. That's why they moved the Heat over to 560. Because when Joe leaves at the end of the year, that's going to be in the middle of the season. So you might as well leave all of the programming on the 560 side. And then who knows what I doubt that other station stays with that gambling crap. Eventually, the bankruptcy will lead to selling some of these radio stations, if not all. So there you go. Inter Miami's offense has been on fire the past few weeks. They've been averaging at least 3 to 4 goals. Definitely a fun team to watch. Oh, yeah. Yeah. They were even fun at the beginning of the year when they didn't know what the hell they were doing, but they were young and fast, and the speed would play them into something and would play them right out of a play also. It was hilarious, but it was fun. And then Campana and all that was good. And then now you've added more talent. I like the direction they're going in. I think they're going to climb. I think they're going to get one of those 5, the 5th or 6th spot. We'll see. Let's see. Inter Miami's offense has been, I got that long-term. McDaniel and his coaching staff may very well prove to be the best offense addition the Fins have made in years. I hope so, man. I really hope so. That would be very important. The ticket has gone down the drain. The only decent show there. Yeah, of course, Tobin and Leroy. Saw Tobin today at camp. He's a good dude, man. Tobin works his ass off, bro. Really admire that guy. Does a great job. Works his ass off. Super likable on air, all that stuff. And he works for that crap hole. It's amazing. Really is. When sports and business collide, we like to do something that is called the KSDT CPA Sports Business Report. Oh yeah, it's one of those things that it happens to me over time, and it's happened to me a couple times where I've got to go against the grain, but eventually, as I'm going against it, I take on the entire challenge, and eventually, I turn them around. When they're all excited about Ndamukong Suh, I told them, slow down. That's a bad contract. Not worth it. Eventually, they all came around. Hassan Whiteside signs a big deal. I said, I understand what the Heat are doing, but disagree with it. I wouldn't give that guy the money. The rest is history. This happens to me a lot. And Ryan Tannehill was that guy. I always said you don't take a project at number 8 overall in the draft. This is a guy that can never really put you over the top. He gets scatterbrained in key moments. But he goes to Tennessee, and he fools some of you into thinking that he was actually a real quarterback when he was a facilitator on his best day, and that's all he was, right? And those of you that went against me, and I went against the grain, I eventually turned you around. Well, apparently, people are now catching on, and they are now on the Tannehill bandwagon. There are plenty of ways to see an NFL team getting their shine, either through TV, viewership, social media metrics are often the best way to see a team getting hyped and how the general public is betting on them. There's also the exact opposite of that. Which teams are getting faded? Basically, this is where someone is taking the opposite side of a bet. So rather than the team betting on a team to make the playoffs, you can bet on them to miss the playoffs. There's one team who's receiving plenty of action not to make the playoffs. That team is the Tennessee Titans. Bets have been rolling in on the Titans to miss the playoffs. Not only do the Titans have the most tickets and money to miss the playoffs this coming season, they also have the fifth most money to have the worst record. To add insult to injury, they also have the fewest bets on them to win the AFC South. That's amazing. Fewest tickets to win the AFC South, even behind the Texans. Fifth most money to have the worst record. Most tickets, money to miss the playoffs at Caesars Sportsbook. Ryan Tannehill. It's a scar. It's a deep scar. It was a lot of sleepless nights. Every time I closed my eyes, I was rewatching the game in my head. Scatterbrain. Didn't get a whole lot of sleep for weeks and weeks after the game. I was in a dark place, and it took me a while and a lot of work to get out of it. It was something that went away. That wasn't something that went away easily, and it's still a scar that I'll carry me throughout the rest of my life. Not really what I want to hear from my quarterback. But then again, he's not my quarterback. So it's nice to see that folks are making the right business decisions when it comes to the Tennessee Titans. Nice to see those of you that went against the grain, you are now following it. That's your KSDT Sports Business Report.
This has been the KSDT Sports Business Report. KSDT CPA is one of South Florida's largest and one of the country's fastest growing accounting firms. KSDT is recognized by Forbes as one of the top tax and accounting firms for 2022. KSDT CPA is a full service firm that also excels in crypto. Visit online at ksdtcpa.com or call 305-670-3370.
All right. Let's see what else. Let's see. AFC West makes a process of elimination for the AFC. What? Where'd it go? I guess it was erased. Big O, what teams do you think missed the playoffs this year from last year's playoff teams? Do you think both Raiders and Titans miss? Well, I can see the Titans missing the playoffs because I think eventually they're going to go to Malik. And look, in the end, it's easy to figure out the Titans. Just stop the running game. The guy's not going to beat you with his arm. He never will. So if you don't give him the advantage so he has the line and the running game working, that way he can play action and facilitate at least, because that's what Ryan can do on his best day is facilitate. And so it's kind of easy. The Ravens are another team that I really wonder about them because, I've never bought Lamar as a passer, okay? But they are built for the regular season. They're not built for the playoffs. And that's the one thing that I'll give the Ravens, that if you're going to run, I'll give them a better chance of making the playoffs, eking in there. That's if well, you know what? Hold on a second. Now that I think about it, the cover zero blitz, if others do it, that may be what kind of exposes Lamar this year. If people do what Miami did to him and he doesn't figure it out. So there's a chance that it could go bad for the Raiders, but I would say that the Titans for sure don't make the playoffs this year. Yeah. because eventually I think they go to Malik and they have to start to try to develop him. I mean, the writing's on the wall. He performed pretty well this past week. I don't think Ryan enjoyed that, watching that. Ray says the same thing. If Tannehill struggles those 2 weeks in the beginning of the season, we can see them starting Malik. Yeah, they'll go to Malik. Eventually, they will go to Malik. They have to. That's why you drafted him, to develop him. So, Big O, who wins the championship first, Inter Miami or the Panthers? That's an interesting question. Panthers are closer, and now that they got a star, I'll go Panthers for the hell of it. Okay. Steelers will fail with Flores, a.k.a. Starscream, undermining Tomlin. Dougie Fresh says, for what it's worth, Solomon Kinley in pass protection against Tampa Bay last week, 23 block snaps, 0 pressures allowed. Yeah, no, and he was pulling and everything. So remember, Dougie, we talked about this with Solomon Kinley. And again, he's overweight. Oh, he's not looking good, this, that, whatever. And he comes out Saturday and mauls a couple of dudes, does a good job overall, and all of a sudden, it's what I told you, right? We're in a game. Not practice. We're talking about a game, okay? And all of a sudden now, we get to see the real Solomon Kinley. If we didn't go by Saturday, did Solomon Kinley have a shot at being on this team after everything that's been talked about? Right? We thought for sure it was over for Solomon Kinley. Oh, well, you thought he was working on his way. No, he's overweight still and this, that. And then all of a sudden he comes out Saturday and he performs well. And you're like, well, wait a minute. No, Solomon Kinley deserves to be on this team right now. They don't have 3-4 guys on the bench better than him. So, yeah, he's got to be in your top 8 or 9. This is why I tell you, when we go full circle back to the beginning of the show, when I told you you cannot tell good football nowadays because they don't hit as much. So Solomon Kinley making some noise. We'll see what he does on Saturday. But it's pretty cool to see that he is actually, getting it done. Kind of like Edge energy drink. It gets it done every single time. Delicious, smooth, and 0 aftertaste. When we talk about Edge, folks, you can't get it at any store. I tell you all the time, you want the greatest energy drink on the planet. It is so awesome. It's delicious, smooth, and 0 aftertaste. And no, I'm not exaggerating. Some of you out there might be saying, oh, come on, dude. Aren't you going a little over the top? Take the taste test. Okay? Can't get in a store, but listen, you don't need to leave your house. Just go to myedgedrink.com, order it, use our code Big O, get 10% off, have it delivered right to your home or office, and then try it. All right? Take that taste test and put it on social media, man. Let's go. Put it on social media. Maybe I'll send you an Edge shirt if you put it on social media. How about that? You buy an Edge drink and tweet me back or Instagram me back, okay? Show me the Edge drink, and maybe I'll send you a shirt. How about that? All right? So let's take the challenge. Taste it, 78 calories. It's delicious, smooth, 0 aftertaste. As an elixir, it is awesome. I love it with vodka personally. Go to myedgedrink.com. And after you try it, you're going to go, I'll never have this energy drink again, that energy drink again. I don't want it. myedgedrink.com. Get 10% off. All right. What else do we have here? Noah Igbenogany. He had a really nice play. He had the interception against Teddy yesterday for a touchdown. And then today, brother, he was running stride for stride and made sure the pass was incomplete to Tyreek. Stride for stride. And I'm talking about 35 yards downfield. So it's not like he was with Tyreek in the first 5 or 10 yards. And then, no. When you're downfield 25, 30, 35, 40, 45 yards, I don't expect you to be anywhere in the neighborhood of Tyreek. And he was step for step with him. These are the moments that you're watching and you say to yourself, Noah does have talent. He's raw. He's got to learn. He's got to develop the instincts. We all know that. But remember what I told you now. If he starts to have little successes on top of little successes, and he's able to build on that, that's how you build up that confidence. That's how you start to believe in yourself. And I think that release yesterday was one of those like, see, I know I can do this. And then he comes back the next day and he's running stride for stride with Tyreek Hill downfield. Look, man, I don't know if Noah's going to turn into the guy or not, whatever. If Austin turns into the player and Tua turns into a player, c'est la vie. It's a fantastic draft. It's an incredible draft when you throw in Raekwon Davis and Brandon Jones and all that. So if this kid can cross the threshold, oh my God, it becomes a sick draft. For the draft that was looked at like one of the worst ever, right? So Tua's looking better. Austin Jackson's looking better. Noah's the one that's got to grow. But it was nice to see him hang with the fastest player on the team, hang with one of the best receivers in the NFL. That's how you build the confidence, man. I love his mental toughness. And do not mistake that. That is exactly what he has. Mental toughness. I like it. I really do. 855-912-1056. That's 855-912-1056 if you want to get in on the Welt and Rayom text line. Let me check it out. By the way, Bitcoin's at 23,653. So it fell under the 24 mark, but it's been holding. It's still pretty strong overall. I mean, when you look at what's been going on with the market and everything, it has held pretty damn strong. Still impressed, actually, as I didn't expect this. I expected us to be a little lower for a while and more. I mean, it's a great buying opportunity. Okay. One guy's asking me, is Joe back yet? Not yet. Joe hopefully will start. I think everything is pretty much kind of going. It's going to happen. It'll happen on the 1st of September. Okay. So that week is where Joe Shad will start joining us once again. Okay. So it would all happen. You know, I love the people that are constantly, hey, so whatever happened to Joe? And it's like, I get it, dude. You just listen to the segments. And that's the difference. If you don't download the whole show, you don't get to listen to everything that goes on and all the little things that we talk about the show and about what's going on with this person or that person or whatever little nuggets that we may share with you that don't become segments that Sean Stanley cuts up. So you can always tell that person. Always. You can tell. It's like, oh, I didn't catch, haven't seen Joe. What happened to him? It's like, okay. All right. I got you. Got to listen to the show to actually know all about the show and everything else going on. Let's see. Hey, Joe, where you going with that newspaper in your hand? PNS Slot says, Big O, a lo cubano. ¿Qué pasa con Tua? Waddle. Everything's good, bro. Everything's good. I don't think the Waddle thing is serious. We already talked about it. I think he'll be fine. It's just probably they're probably taking the precautionary approach with it. Okay? I'm praying that China's debacle gets sorted before the worst happens. What's happening over there? I don't know if what's happening over there will ever get solved, my brother. That's like asking the Middle East to get resolved. You know, when you're whatever communist, socialist, whatever kind of government we're talking about, North Korea, Russia, China, you're never going to have anything settled, my friend, because that's not the way those people want it. Unfortunately. So unless you free those countries and get rid of the dictatorships, the China shadow will be there forever. The Russian shadow will be there forever. The North Korean shadow will be there forever. It's just something that we have to deal with, unfortunately. But it isn't going to get any better. That's not what any of those animals want to do. I mean, they're scumbags. They treat their people like scumbags. That's why they're just giant jails. That's what China is. It's a big, giant jail. That's what Russia is and North Korea. It's just a big-ass jail. Those people have no freedoms, no rights, no nothing. That's all. So I don't think that will ever change, my friend, unless they change their governments. Only way. Speaking of viewers who missed a few shows, is that VSS R2D2 pipe still for sale? I have not been there in a while. But you know what? It's funny. I saw Ed at training camp. I mean, Juan at training camp. I saw Juan, the owner for VSS, at training camp. He was there with his son. So I didn't ask him. You'll have to call Dougie Fresh to ask him if it's still there. It is cool. I will say that. Anyway, I can't wait for the Dolphins to use the home field weather advantage to get wins this year with all their speed. Flores somehow blew all of that early, hot 1 p.m. This motion offense will wear the D down. Well, listen, don't kid yourselves, okay? What takes advantage of the Heat home court is what Pat Riley does from the beginning. When you take advantage of that Heat at 1 o'clock back in the day, it's because you had Don Shula. All right? That's what's ultimately going to give you the advantage, is the leadership that you have running your organization. You know, the Heat is nice, but it's only good if you're playing smart football, if you're playing clean football, if you're not making a bunch of mistakes. That's the only way it's nice. Just like it's nice when you're dealing with pain and you put on a Red Recover wrap, whether it's a shoulder, neck, back, elbow, knees, ankles, you name it. We've got a wrap for you. We've got a wrap for our dogs. That's right. You know, the dogs, as they get older, they develop those issues with their hip. Well, you can do it at redrecover.com, or to go to redrecover.com. Use our code Big O, get 10% off. They also have the hat, so you can try to grow your hair back, as I'm doing here, that I'm getting my hair back right here. My natural yarmulke is disappearing little by little, which is a miracle, but it might work for you. I'm not saying it's perfect, because this has been dead for years and it has not been revived. So not everywhere can get revived, but it might be able to revive your hair. You can do that. Check it out on the website. Go to redrecover.com. Check out the video blogs. NFL player, you know, you got Hayden Hurst, who uses Red Recover to optimize his workouts. Former first-round pick playing with the Cincinnati Bengals. Read the blogs. Find out more about red light therapy. It is all natural, no side effects. Even the kids can use it with no problem and no concerns whatsoever. All natural way of healing. Even scars from operations and injuries will disappear a lot faster with red light therapy. This is why you've got to do it. So go to redrecover.com. Use our code Big O. All righty. It is time. Well, let's bring up Ira Winderman. I know we're waiting for Kurt Heelan. There we go. There he is. How you feeling, my man?
Yeah, I'm doing it
also. There we go.
Everyone's
There
here.
we
You know, Big O, sometimes it's worth waiting for something. And I think the fact that the NBA schedule came out today, our timing couldn't be better than going a little bit later than our usual 9 a.m. on Wednesdays. Because as I wrote, and I know I sent the story to Kurt told him to read it also, you would think the Miami Heat were some sort of craptastic team in some sort of craptastic market with no television ratings, so no one gave a rat's crap about. Because when you look at their national television schedule, Kurt knows how this goes. We see in the chart on the right side, it lists ESPN, ABC, right, TNT, and you see how many national games, not counting NBA TV, which aren't televised in home markets and blacked out in places. The fact that the Heat only have 11 is, I've been sitting on the schedule, as you know, Big O, for Accurate Pembroke Pines Reports, knowing it was coming out. I was blown away. And last week when we last left it with Kurt Helin and we were talking about the Heat schedule, he said, no, there'll be plenty of national TV. This team's been to the conference finals two of the last 3 years. Holy crap. The NBA might as well have put out the Miami Heat schedule with a big middle finger raised in the middle of the NBA logo from Jerry West. Kurt, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was really surprised. Again, it's not just that the Heat have been to the conference finals and winning, because winning alone isn't enough, but they bring star power, right? Like, you have Jimmy Butler, you have Bam Adebayo, and the NBA.
They're not sexy enough. They're not sexy enough. They're blue. Those are two blue collar guys. So really the only sexiness that the Heat have on the team is Tyler Hero's wife. Outside of that, there is no sexiness on the Miami Heat team. You didn't trade for Durant. You didn't trade for Donovan Mitchell. You needed sexy. And Alonzo Mourning is sexy. Shaq, Wade, LeBron, sexy. Butler is respected, but it's not sexy. It's not what's going to bring people, because he's not a scorer. And in a scoring league, Bam isn't a scorer. And in a scoring league, that's a problem.
But you like big butts and you cannot lie. What about Kyle Lowry? I'll leave it there.
That was good. That was good. That was good. But that big butt slowed him down, and we all know why. So that's the problem there too. So maybe, if you're going to be big, you got to be sexy with big. You know what I'm saying? So he didn't bring enough sexiness. So what do you think, Kurt? Is that really the issue when it's all said and done? Sexiness.
At the end of the day, they leaned into Ja Morant. They leaned into Luka. Well, I get leaning into Luka, frankly, but they leaned into some of these young guys more. And the other team that didn't get, I'd have to look up the exact number now. It's a kind of the Kawhi Leonard problem, right? Like, Kawhi Leonard is unquestionably one of the great players in the league when healthy. Not dynamic, not that much fun. Like, he's a great lockdown defender, and he's a robot getting to his spots, but it's not sexy to watch, like Ja Morant jumping out of the building. So they went with sexy. I think that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, our boys aren't sexy yet. Now, Ira Winderman and Kurt Helin, they bring plenty of sexiness. And so for the next hour, they are going to give you some hot and sexy Miami Heat and NBA talk as our redrecover.com Inside the Paint show is next.
NBA fans, it's time for the redrecover.com Inside the Paint show with Ira Winderman and Kurt Helin. Redrecover.com helps pros and everyday warriors heal on the go with our medical-grade, highly specialized devices designed for each area of the body. Use code BIG-O to get a 10% discount. Let's hit the hardwood with some of the best insiders in the NBA. Here's Ira Winderman and Kurt Helin.
Welcome back for another one of our redrecover.com Inside the Paint shows. And again, when a lot of people ask Orlando Alzagari, why Big O are you featuring basketball in August? Kurt, I can't find many other times when I can think of so much to fill up an hour right now. So I think we're going to have plenty to talk about. You have the NBA schedule dropped earlier today and dropped the Heat flat on their head with only 11 national broadcasts. You have out there where you are in LA doing your work for NBC Sports, LeBron James agreeing to a 2-year extension. which is very good for LeBron James financially at $100 million.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not so good for the Los Angeles Lakers and any visions of great cap space going forward. We'll touch on that. And just this past week, I know Kurt read the stories, had a chance to talk to both Udonis Haslem and Tyler Hero regarding their upcoming seasons. Both very level-headed as far as their approach. Udonis taking his time. Tyler saying, hey, I'm getting ready for a season. I will be playing somewhere. He knows about the trade rumors. He knows about the extension, whether we'll get it or not get it. We will get into all of that. And I get the feeling somewhere along the way, we will mention the names Kevin Durant and Donovan Mitchell as well, because that apparently is a requirement. Just like Red Recover will take care of all that ails you, apparently when it comes to all the NBA trade rumors, there will always be Kevin Durant and there will always be Donovan Mitchell until finally it might get over. Kurt, I want to start, though, where we talk with Big O on the Crosstalk. And especially someone like you, who with your work with NBC Sports, you take a national view of everything. We know certain teams you fully expect to get the maximum amount of games. You expect a team like the Warriors with Steph and their championship and their storylines. You mentioned on our Crosstalk Luka Doncic, maybe the most charismatic and interesting player in the NBA. I get that also. The Miami Heat received 11 national television games. That's defined by ABC, ESPN, or TNT. We don't count NBA TV because, number one, they switch up those games anyway. They're not available in the local market, and it's done by local broadcasters for the most part. So it doesn't have the feel of a national broadcast. You're not sitting there with Kevin Harlan or Stan Van Gundy or ESPN's people. And then I looked around a little bit, and I saw the Lakers have 27 such games. I don't remember the Lakers very much in last year's playoffs, so maybe in a couple of seconds you can help me out on that, Kurt. Saw the Philadelphia 76ers with 23 such games. Last I remember, the Heat beat the 76ers in the Eastern Conference semifinals. Then, of course, I looked at the Knicks and saw they have 13, even more than the Heat do anyway. A year ago, I would have had no issue. The Heat last year had 10 national games, one fewer than this year. They were coming off a number 6 playoff seed. They only finished 8 games over 500, and they were swept 4-0 by the Bucks in the first round. I get it. Kurt, you know, especially down here, in so many of the blogs and so much social media, people think the league have it, quote unquote, out for the Heat. I don't necessarily think so. But I want you to give me, especially because of where you are, the long view, out in LA, sort of the entirety of the country. Are the Miami Heat interesting enough?
That might be part of the problem. By the way, I get the league is out to get us thing. I will tell you right now, there are 30 teams unhappy with their schedule, right? It is universal. Nobody likes their schedule when it comes out. They all kind of complain about it. It is what it is. But it must be, interesting is a good word. You know, Big O used sexy. Look, the Lakers have LeBron James and they have the biggest fan base, you know, the biggest international fan base. They're the Lakers. It's going to be what it is. But you see the Knicks getting more, and that's the one, like, I kind of get Philly a little. Like, I thought they'd max out around 20 because Joel Embiid is a charismatic player. They've got James Harden. It is a big market. Sure. Yeah. The Knicks at home, by the way, on Christmas in Madison Square Garden, it's like it's a tradition. Like we have to watch the.
You know what? I'm going to tell you, Kurt, I get that a little bit because I grew up in New York as a Knicks fan. They always played on Christmas. Remember, Bernard King had his great Christmas Day games. I can understand the tradition of that. And to me, the equivalency there is every year we get some god-awful Detroit Lions football game on Thanksgiving. And you're going through your games. Thankfully, now the NFL has added like 2 or 3 others, and there's an NFL Network game at night so you can see real football. I get the tradition of that. I was not as offended by Christmas. Number one, no one likes to work on Christmas. All the people I know down at FTX Arena would rather be home with their family, the vendors, the ushers, the security people. I have no issue with that. I'm just looking at a bigger picture of this when it comes to the Heat. And I'm writing this for my Ask Ira at the Sun Sentinel tomorrow. Do Heat players have to threaten to want to get traded? Do they have to hold out? Do they have to post things on their TikToks to get attention? Big O pointed out, yes, Tyler Hero has put his girlfriend aside, but Tyler Hero has always had that kind of following from the suit he wore on draft night ever since. He styles when he's out there. I get that. You can make an argument Duncan Robinson doesn't style, Dwayne Dedmon doesn't style, Max Strus doesn't style. I get all of that. But shouldn't the NBA take pride in the organizations that do things the right way? The Miami Heat play for the playoffs every year. The Miami Heat don't tank unless Michael Beasley and Derrick Rose are out there. That's 1 out of 35 years. It would seem to me if you do things the right way, you should be rewarded. And to me, and again, I have no stake with the Heat. I'm not a friend of the Heat. I cover the Heat. I don't work from the Heat. I don't draw a check from the Heat. Do draw a check from redrecovered.com. So folks, please go to that website. That I get. But Kurt, if a team does things the right way, don't they deserve to be rewarded for doing things the right way?
You would like to think so, but you've seen this in other places. The Utah Jazz pre-teardown this season, one of the most stable, one of the smartest organizations, and build a team that had the best record in the NBA.
Correct.
When you're head, almost never on it, right? Almost never. Like they didn't get a lot of national games, and frankly, Donovan Mitchell's kind of interesting. Like that was an interesting team to watch, but there was something about them, and in the league. Yeah, you should. Yes, to me, and I think just going back to the LeBron era and the fan base they built, like this is a fan base that's a little more national than I think maybe the league sets in on. It's not Lakers level national, but it is national. Like I see Heat jerseys everywhere. There is a love of the franchise, and maybe it's just from people who grew up watching LeBron in the Heat, but there is and people from Miami spending part of the time in other parts of the country and what have you and moving. There is a fan base everywhere for the Heat, and it's one of the bigger ones. It feels to me, and yet, like you said, they just when push comes to shove, when the numbers come out, we're getting more Knicks.
We just are. Matter of fact, even Brooklyn, with the uncertainty with Durant and with Kyrie, has more national games also. Not the number you would expect from Brooklyn if they were a known quantity.
No, they would have been in the high 20s, right?
I mean, but they're still 13 or 14. They're still up there, so I don't get that. There's another component of the schedule I wanted to talk to you about because with your work at Pro Basketball Talk and just being a fan of the game and all this, the NBA very proudly, I mean, you got the release, I got the release. They significantly reduced travel this season.
Yes.
And they significantly reduced it by this. The Heat have 6 of these. 6 times this season, the Heat will play the same opponent in consecutive home games. They have some Charlotte, Toronto, Cleveland, Atlanta. They're Milwaukee twice. There's a bunch of those. Here's my argument against that, Kurt. One of the fun things about being a fan is picking and choosing your games by picking and choosing who you want to see play. Okay, I want to see Trae Young play for Atlanta. I want to see Giannis Antetokounmpo play for the Bucks. Right. When Toronto comes in, huge Fred VanVleet fan, want to see him. Here's my problem, and I wonder I want to give you a little story idea so you can knock it out there at Pro Basketball Talk after this.
I'm writing a news and notes column on the schedule release later tonight. So yeah,
perfect. Because here's my problem with that. When you play the same team twice in a span of 3 days, as the Heat does 6 times this year, if a player is injured and not available, he's probably not available for both of those games. So if you want to see Trae Young, okay, let's say Trae Young in February has an ankle sprain. But maybe he wasn't injured in December or in March or afterwards, where you could say, damn, I'm really kind of PO'd. I'm not going to get to see Trae this weekend. I'm going to make sure I catch the Hawks the next time they're in. No, this is the only time they're in. Same thing with Giannis. The Heat have a Thursday night game against Giannis and then a 1 p.m. Saturday game against Giannis. Highly doubtful if he or Chris Middleton or Drew Holiday are injured on Thursday. They're turning around right after a day off and playing on Saturday. So I understand it saves the players themselves. God bless the players. They don't make a lot of money. They deserve to be saved. But the poor schmo fan who's out there who wants to see someone, I think that's the problem. Even the Wizards, the Heat have a game against the Wizards the day before Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving. You want to see Bradley Beal. You saw him play at Florida. You want to catch him again. I think that's sort of a downside. So I want to ask you, with what I just said, but also you've written so many pieces at NBC Sports and Pro Basketball Talk about the schedule and the travel and the back-to-backs and the grueling nature and, because you're out there with Kawhi, load management. Did the league necessarily get this right based on what I just offered up to you and what you've heard over so many years about the load management thing?
there's a balance they've got to find. But to me, the flip side of that is there is some energy in that second game. This is a little more like a playoff series in that you adjust to that team in the second game in a way that, look, you and I know this, and I think hardcore fans know this, but I'm not sure everybody knows this. Teams don't practice much. Like, again, this is a recovery league. This is a Red Recover.com. They should be using the equipment, the Red Recover equipment, but it is about resting guys during the season. And then even guys who are not on load management, like they don't, Doc Rivers practices less than any team. And partially, when he was in LA, I just thought it was golf, but I think it's carried over to Philly where he can't golf in the winter. Because of that, you get less travel, but you do get a certain level of, all right, well, they beat us this way last time. We're going to switch our pick and roll coverage. We're going to pressure here. This worked a little bit at the end of that game. We're going to try this more. So you do get a little of that. But I think you're right that the trade-off is not ideal for fans when guys are injured and guys are out. Or, frankly, just, if I'm a baseball fan, I expect to see the Marlins 3 times in a row and then whoever.
Which I always hated about being a baseball season ticket holder, never understood, is who says, oh, boy, 4 straight Pirates games. Yay.
Yeah, exactly. You get used to it, but it's a little weird. But if I have Miami Heat season tickets, it's fine if I get to see the Bucks twice in a row, maybe, or something where there's some fire in that game. But if I got the Magic twice in a row or whatever, like some other team, then I'm not as interested. I thought the league would do more with, hey, let's keep a team in Florida, keep the travel down that way. It makes a lot of sense to have teams play the Knicks and then the Nets, right? Like stay in New York. We'll have you play.
And the Heat have one of those. The Heat's trip out to LA is Clippers day off Lakers. So they do have that, and that's smart. Stay at Staples Center or what is it now? FTX Arena?
Yeah.
FTX.com Arena?
It is now the Crypto.com Arena.
Crypto.com. I'm sorry. Don't want to hurt any sponsors. They know they might join the Big O show along the way. So I'm staying out there in LA Live, downtown at the Courtyard. It's easy. You walk right over. You walk right back. I get all of that. Let me ask you this, because I guess we need to get to this also. So the Jazz are an uncertain team. We don't know who they're going to have. But the NBA came out and said, hey, let's show the Knicks Jazz national TV on November 15th because Donovan Mitchell will be playing somewhere. So I'm going to put you back in the league office. Matt Winnick for years put the schedule together. Now it's a computer in an isolated room and other people going around it. The Brooklyn Nets. One, maybe you're a Heat fan. You want to come see the Nets when they play in Miami or just otherwise. Mid-August, August 17th. Kurt Helin, your thoughts. Who are and how good and what will the Brooklyn Nets be?
I think that they are going to draw pretty good ratings in a train wreck variety, right? Like in the car crash, I'm looking at what's happening on the other side of the barrier because it's not affecting my lane, but I want to see how bad that accident is. There's going to be some rubbernecking, right? Like Durant holds out. Then how does everybody handle with that? And Kyrie shows up. How does everybody handle that? If Durant shows up, it is a show. Well, I can't use the first word I want to use there. It is going to be crazy. And I think the other part Ben Simmons is going to show up and play. And that's like the 4th or 5th biggest storyline going into the Nets season. Like, I think that there's interest in them from that drama standpoint. They're probably not going to be very good. I can't imagine even if they would be good.
I got to ask you why. I'm going to take sort of you're going to the macro and I'm going to go to the micro, okay? Kevin Durant is great and a top 5 NBA player, correct?
Yeah.
Kyrie Irving is one of the top 5 bucket getters in the NBA. When he shows up, when he plays, yes or no?
Yeah, absolutely. Best handles in the league.
Ben Simmons, when I'm going to combine 2 skills, okay? The combination of passing and defense, those 2 skills together, probably a top 10 player. I know there's a 3 and D, but let's call him an assist and D player, okay? Probably top 10 when it comes to that, correct?
Absolute top 4 or 5, probably, yeah.
Okay. Joe Harris, 3-point shooter, top 10? With his volume.
Yeah, when he's healthy, yeah, easily.
Okay, with his volume. I don't understand. Big O and I went through this all last season when I had fear of God in the Nets, and he absolutely ridiculed me as the Celtics were eviscerating them in the first round. But why are so many people – are people simply sleeping because they don't believe the chemistry can ever come together, because they believe once you rip a coach and a general manager and everyone's on their own? I mean, Kyrie Irving has had great seasons, had a championship season. Kevin Durant has had great seasons, had a championship season. Ben Simmons was a lot to Philadelphia during their rise from the process. Why can't the Nets be great?
Because they'd all have to get in a room and pull the rope the same direction. Like, it's just, there isn't that chemistry. This is going to be, I don't know, more like the Lakers or Nets of last year, I feel like, where you think on paper this should work better than it really looks once you start playing it. Even if they're healthy, I just got to, you still have to have, everybody buying in. Like, you have to have everybody on the same page. And Kyrie, I got a feeling, is going out there looking to put up numbers because he doesn't want to be there. He saw what his market value was. And it's like, no, I'm going to remind everybody who I am. And we're going to have some no pass into the open. I don't care how open Joe Harris is. I'm
exactly.
Scott Knights. I think you're just going to get a lot of that type of play. And I'm not sure, I don't know how good a coach Steve Nash is. I really don't, because I don't know that he's gotten – I think Durant was right at the end of last season. With COVID and injuries and everything else that's gone on there, I don't think he's gotten a chance to show what he can do. I'm also not convinced he is the kind of charismatic leader that's got everybody pulling – again, grabbing that rope and pulling it in the same direction. I just don't think he can do it. I think that team is going to be selfish and lost.
I want to stay sort of on the national, but also tied into the local down here after the break. And I didn't put this on the show sheet. So, Kurt, you might have 90 seconds to do your research. After the break, I want to get in today. It's always something. Just when free agency starts, Kevin Durant wants a trade. Just when the schedule is coming out, LeBron James gets an extension today. I want to ask you about the LeBron James extension. I want to ask you if he could in any way have hurt the Lakers' chances to really rebuild with the money, $50 million a year on the books. And just where this puts LeBron, is it more about the money, more about being out where you are in LA and the opportunities in the entertainment industry? Is this purely a basketball decision? Or is this because I think down here, people have seen the two faces of LeBron. Yeah. There's part of him that wants to be the greatest basketball player ever. This contract extension should allow him to pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the highest scoring NBA player ever. But was this a LeBron decision? Or was this a Lakers decision? So we'll be back after the break with Kurt Heelan on the Inside the Paint, redrecover.com Heat Report. LeBron James, good guy, bad guy, hurting a team, helping himself. After the break.
You're listening to the redrecover.com Inside the Paint Show with Ira Winderman and Kurt Heelan. RedRecover.com's wraps and pads are designed to deliver maximum benefits with each treatment, anywhere you go. Use the code BIG-O to get a 10% discount.
Why is it that you get locked out in the worst moments of your life?
Where are my car keys? Man, I can't find my house keys.
In those frustrating moments, you need a locksmith you can count on. A. Lenny Locksmiths in South Florida, from Miami to Port St. Lucie. In Central Florida, A. Lenny locks it down in Orlando and Tampa Bay. Lockouts or lock changes for home or business. Car key replacements and programming all model cars. 24-hour service. Call them at 855-869-5625. Go to the website at alennylocksmith.com.
Red Recover now offers a simple-to-use, professional-grade light therapy device designed to help your dog heal and live a healthier life. Red Recover emits red and infrared light therapy based on the same science that NASA developed, all in a soft, flexible housing pad powered by a convenient, rechargeable lithium-ion battery. Say yes to science and give your dog the care it deserves with Red Recover.
Welcome back to the RedRecover.com Inside the Paint program with Ira Winterman and Kurt Heelan. Go to RedRecover.com to learn more about red light with videos, blog posts, and 40 years of medical research to treat pain, inflammation, and overall well-being. Use code Big O to receive 10% off your order. Here's Ira Winterman and Kurt Heelan.
Welcome back to the RedRecover.com Inside the Paint show. I'm going to be honest with people. Usually what I'll do is I'll sort of text Kurt a show sheet. We'll do this in each block, and you can obviously listen to each block on our podcast here on the Big O Show. I did not expect anything today but the NBA schedule. We get the schedule ahead of time. We're basically told by the teams. Some of us actually honor that request. Nothing until 3 p.m. when the schedule comes out. You see all kinds of stuff leaked ahead of time. Have to be very careful and diplomatic. There were some years when the league did find teams when they saw teams actually gave out information to the media. Obviously, ESPN pays a lot of money for that. NBA TV followed up with their own special. About, I'd say 15 minutes before, maybe even less, all of a sudden, Shams and Woj and LeBron James has an extension. We were expecting it could happen. I'm not sure we were expecting it on schedule day. The one advantage of the show, Kurt Heelan from Pro Basketball Talk at NBC.com, NBCSports.com, got to get that right, is out there in Los Angeles. He sort of has the pulse of the whole deal. Kurt, can you take us through what happened today with LeBron James?
This was always the expected outcome. By the way, I'm going to do a quick callback because I actually tried to do some research in that little mini break. 55 nationally of those we'll call them the baseball series, the 2 games in a row. 55 of them on the schedule league-wide this year. That's a huge leap from
and 55 chances to one player doesn't play in your market and you never see him all season, even though the team visits twice. You can listen to our first segment on our podcast for all that background, but I'm going to put you on the spot, Kurt, because it seems every time LeBron James does a contract, there's a twist. It's either to hold the teams sort of against the fire, that he can opt out right away if he doesn't get what he wants. He wants a championship. Matter of fact, I think almost every one of LeBron's contracts, including to the Heat, had some sort of option year. He was able to manipulate the end of it to get what he wants from the team he's either leaving or the team he's joining. How does sort of this 2-year extension shake out, Kurt?
It is, like I said, this was expected, and the 1+1 that he signed, the 2 years, but player option second year was always expected. This time, it's not completely about holding the Lakers' feet to the fire, although that's probably part of it. It's about Bronny, right? That second year is when LeBron's son is eligible to enter the NBA draft, all things panning out, him going to college. It looks like he's going to go to college somewhere. And I'm not going to get into the is Bronny. We'll save is Bronny an NBA player conversation for another day. He would get drafted somewhere if LeBron wants him there because somebody will take LeBron and probably in LA.
Oh,
but
sure.
Anyway,
I think there's some teams that would take LeBron and Kurt Heelan just to sit on the end of the bench in a Udonis Haslem type role. So I think we're good with that. I think LeBron can bring any +1 he wants to the party, and the party will embrace him.
Right. And because not just what he does on the court, but frankly, what Miami, the Heat, I'm sure the Aaronsons, everybody would be happy to tell you, he packs the building, he sells sponsors, he brings ratings. He is a financial juggernaut with wherever he's playing and is worth way more than he'll get just in salary to the organization.
I interrupt you there for Kurt, because that's a really interesting point here. I'm going to take it a bit further. So you're saying LeBron James today agreed to a 2-year extension. Only the first year is locked in with the Lakers or in the contract that he's tied to a team. The second year he can opt out of, go where he wants when his son becomes NBA draft eligible, depending on the new CBA, if it's the same rules. At what point in the draft would you take, I guess LeBron would be 39 then. If you had the number 1 pick, would you take Bronny to get LeBron?
No, I don't. I mean,
that's what all of a sudden when you were talking, I just got curious about that. That's going to be a fascinating subject. At what point do you crap can your season and your draft because you were going to be able to, in Sacramento and Indianapolis and Oklahoma City, sell like you've never sold before? We talked about the schedule in our first segment. You can listen to that on the podcast. You would be getting 27 games like the Lakers would to see LeBron and Bronny. So I just wonder, I know I put you on the spot here. I know this wasn't on the show sheet. I know I'm an awful person, but it's later today. It's not wake up time. You've already been caffeinated. Give me a draft number. At what point, at 1, at 5, at 10, at 12, at 15, would you say this is a god-awful draft pick? This guy might not be able to play at all. We saw Dwayne Wade's son try to play in the G League last year, for example. Didn't really pan out. We've seen a lot of second-generation talent. The Heat have tried out Anthony Mason Jr., Patrick Ewing Jr. has come through. They've had a lot of the younger players as a courtesy with their G League team. But where in a draft would you, knowing what draft picks are worth on that value card, where would you draft Bronny James in order to get LeBron James for 2 seasons for your team at age 40?
I will say I've had this direct conversation with scouts and other people. And what I got a lot of was, if he wasn't LeBron's son, and how much money he's going to make off of the NIL. Like, he might actually have to take a pay cut to go to the NBA on some level. He's still a stay in college kind of player. Maybe he should play 2 or 3 seasons. He should develop. I've had a couple of people say, well, we might throw a late second round pick at a guy like that because he's athletic.
Sure.
But he's an athletic. Dad is 6'9" and otherworldly in so many ways physically. Bronny's 6'3". There's a whole lot of 6'3" guys, 6'4" guys who are elite athletes. It's hard to work your way through that. You know, not everybody gets to be Dwayne Wade, man. Like, you got to really put in the work.
It reminds me a lot of Sharif O'Neal, who got a tryout with the Lakers, an invitation to camp. Obviously, nothing like Shaquille O'Neal, his father's build. Right. A completely different player. Honestly, I mean, look, he had that terrible heart situation at UCLA, and we understand. Thank God he made it through. I think he went to LSU. Is that correct? He briefly was there. Yeah, but he's just a guy. But when you're a guy with a famous father, you get a chance. So to bring it back to LeBron, then I won't force you to give me a draft choice. What does this extension do vis-a-vis the Lakers' ability to or not to get better?
By the way, my guess would be Bronny's late first round. As for the Lakers, this ties their hands a little bit. They will still have some cap space next year.
I hate to do this because I hate when people do this to me. So, and again, no one's aggregating. Don't aggregate this, people. Roughly, do you think if LeBron goes in with that number, would they have enough for a max player or even close to that with Westbrook going out?
No, even with Westbrook off the books. I have seen this worked out. I want to say, because everybody, look, LeBron was a max player. We kind of knew what this number was going to be. And by the way,
more than max player, sure.
Yeah. And just to be clear for everyone out there listening, LeBron is under contract for this coming season for 44.5. That was already locked in. This is an extension.
This is an extension, correct.
Right. So he's got 2 locked in season with the Lakers, then a player option. They aren't going to have a ton of cap space next year anyway. It's in the 20 million range, depending on what they do or don't do. It is not max player. It becomes really hard to get to max player just because they are such a top heavy roster, right? And part of the reason that they are willing to go all in on Kyrie Irving and maybe throw both draft picks and try to make that happen is simply they can if they can get him, then they've got his bird rights. And they can spend him in a way that they can't offer him as a free agent. So they don't have max money next year. They have some. They'll be able to do more, but they don't have the money to go get whatever big names will.
So it's not a matter of LeBron is sort of hurting them or setting them back from what they could be, that you sort of figured if he was there, he's going to get roughly this type of money anyway.
Right. And honestly, unless he wanted to pull a James Harden, I'm sure that was not tampering. No. Unless he wanted to do something like that where he took a steep pay cut, they were never going to have cash. And by the way, LeBron and Chris Paul have been at the front of I'm not taking less. I'm not taking less from the ownership. I'm going to get every penny I can get. And hey, you and I and everybody listening, we're all trying to get every penny we can get. So I don't really fault them there. So
we have LeBron. He has this extension now. Are the Lakers going to be any good during the rest of LeBron James's career? And again, Anthony Davis is a great player when he's on the court. Other than that, I mean, I know you know far more about the Lakers roster than I do this season. You could talk all you want about Darvin Ham going in and it's going to make Russell Westbrook all of a sudden this dead-eye three-point corner shooter that I don't think he's ever been in his career. With this extension, does LeBron win another championship?
Probably not. I mean, I would say highly unlikely. It's just really hard now for them to get the talent they're going to need, especially in a West where Warriors are still going to be really good for a couple of years. Grizzlies are on the rise. Dallas will eventually get a number 2, and they're still going to be really good with Luka. And we could go down the list. Minnesota's going to be good. Minnesota got better. I don't know if they're a contender, but like they're going to win games and on down the list. I just don't. The Denver Clippers, I just don't see how they get past these teams. So my guess is no. But if they're going to be great, you mentioned the name that has to. If it's bubble Anthony Davis, they got a puncher's chance in any series because that Anthony Davis is elite, right? And by the way, I think that's what the real test is for them this year. If Anthony Davis was brought in to be the next number 1, if he's not capable of physically or in any way carrying that burden, you got to rethink your long term.
And that's interesting. And I want to ask this just because I love using this word. Does this officially put the kibosh on LeBron James going back to Cleveland? And Kurt, I know you've probably written some pieces about this anyway. With Cleveland, with all the young talent there, especially if they do bring back Colin Sexton, they have Garland, they have Mobley, they have such a nice young team. Was that ever real, or was that people on the outside trying to link player with homecoming again and something like that? Was that ever real? Does this officially end it?
Great use of the word kibosh, by the way.
It's a kibosh Wednesday down here, so why not?
I don't know that it was really very real. I know LeBron, like All-Star Weekend, kind of threw out how happy he was and how much he loved it. And LeBron, you covered him. Does the man ever say anything quite like that on accident?
No, everything is very pointed. Everything is very thought out. Everything is passive aggressive. Yes. So I think it's also to make a statement to the Lakers, give me more. It's funny. LeBron James is brilliant. He knows basketball. He knows basketball numbers. He knows the salary cap. With Rich Paul, he's figured out how to, I don't say game the system, but beat the system. And yet every now and then he'll do something like, you've got to get me more, when he knows you can't get him more, that Pelinka can't get him more because this is the way the cap works. So then he turns very naive. I don't care how you do it. I want to get more like they do back in Cleveland. Yeah. They've got all those young players now. Why can't we get something like that? And you sort of run into that with LeBron. Want to turn it here real quick. In our first segment, for those who missed it, we spoke about Kevin Durant. You can go listen to the podcast here on our Inside the Paint, redrecover.com show. But I mentioned briefly Donovan Mitchell. And again, you know so much about how sort of the sauce is made anyway. But for whatever reason, and I don't know why, Shams decided this week to bring back the Donovan Mitchell thing and to say the Knicks have re-engaged. And now I'm seeing Charlotte, which makes no sense to me, has re-engaged also. Is there anything new with Donovan Mitchell truly, or is it just this is what we do? I've even heard sometimes Pro Basketball Talk does this also, where you cycle back to something just to sort of get a feel for what's there. Is there anything new with Donovan Mitchell? Have things been restarted? He's actually playing tonight in the Pro-Am in Miami. He's going to play in the same team as Bam Adebayo and Colin Sexton, so I'm sure there'll be more coming out after that game tonight. But is there actual, real, genuine movement, do you feel, on Donovan Mitchell?
Yeah, you can only hope Donovan Mitchell comes out of that Pro-Am tonight and goes, man, I love playing with Bam. And see.
Oh, I know he will, because anything to ruin my weekend. I live that every day as a beat writer, believe me.
I don't know. I found it interesting that Shams put it out there again, right? Like that. He's well sourced. I'm not saying somebody didn't tell him that this is that somebody's trying to stoke the fire again. I'm kind of curious which side or which agent or which person, like who was motivated to say that they're talking again. We've talked about it before. The Knicks remain probably the favorite to get him simply because they can throw more draft picks into the mix, just pure number ones than anybody else. I'm curious if this came from, was it Kyrie's agent? Was it somebody with the Jazz trying to get this rolling? Like, I'm curious where this come from. I still heard, I don't want to say crickets, but there's no real movement. Everybody expects that to be the deal that gets done.
Sure, because of the draft picks and all New York has to offer the draft.
But there's still no pressure, right? We're still 6 weeks from camp opening. Like, there's no reason to have it done this weekend and ruin our weekend Like, not just because, hey, maybe I can wait this out another week or two and see if I get more. And we'll talk in mid-September when there's actual pressure.
Well, I'm going to give you another column idea over there with your good friends at Pro Basketball Talk, and it's this. Remember, Kurt, when there was an era of a team was going to do right by a player, that if we're going to trade this player, we're going to talk to him, we're going to try to get him to a spot he wants to get to. We've seen this countless times, that if you put in even 2 or 3 or 4 years of service, maybe even with a losing team, we'll take care of you. We'll try to get you where you want to go. We've seen this multiple times play out this way in trades. Look, down here, Kyle Lowry wanted to get to the Heat. The Heat didn't have the money. Masai Ujiri said, you know what? We got younger talent. We're going to retool, if not rebuild. I'll work with you, Kyle Lowry. Hey, I got Precious Achiuwa. I took on Goran Dragic's contract. We'll make this work. I'm starting to see more often now. Kevin Durant has done pretty right by Brooklyn to a degree. Circumstance prevented that. It doesn't seem like Sean Marks cares a rat's butt about doing right by Kevin Durant. And I'm curious about the Donovan Mitchell thing. Donovan Mitchell has done right by the Jazz. Now, it's a different regime. It's different general managers. It's even a different ownership that came in. Can you see any scenario where the Utah Jazz say, well, Donovan, if you really enjoyed that Pro-Am on Wednesday night, August 17th in Miami, and you and Bam really are that close, we don't love the Heat's package of picks as much. We know we can get Tyler Hero, send him out for 2 more first-rounders. We're going to do right by you, young man, because you did right by us. Does that exist anymore in the NBA?
I think so, but I think you may have hit the nail on the head, which is, would Dennis Lindsay and the previous, the Miller family regime have done that?
Yes.
Probably. Will the Ryan Smith, Danny Ainge? Yeah, I'm less confident that they would do that. And it might take Donovan being a little more public, being a little more, hey, I want to get to Miami about it. And I don't know where Donovan stands in terms of, he's so easygoing. I got a feeling he's just riding the wave.
But that team is going to be garbage for a while. Because if they were playing to win, they would have taken the picks from the Gobert trade already, moved them somewhere else for a supporting player, but they don't want to do that. So they're going to be awful this year. How many games are the Utah Jazz going to win this year, Kurt Heelan?
I think they're going to be one of the worst teams. I think ultimately they trade Donovan.
Right.
Wherever. They're going to move Mike Conley. They've already removed Royce O'Neal.
Bogdanovich.
Bogdanovich. By the way, that'll be a steal for somebody. Like, that's a good get. They're going to win in the low 20s. Like, I think they're going to be.
I just wonder if in that case, when you know you're going to purposely be bad, you try to do right by someone or not. I think that's the Heat's only avenue in here. I think he likes it down here. I know he's a Mets fan. He likes the Knicks also. But at least it sort of gets you in that Durant, Phoenix, or Miami talk like we had earlier in the summer. Okay, after this break, we're going to turn it to the Miami Heat. I had a chance this week to speak to both Udonis Haslem and Tyler Hero. I got clicks on both stories from Kurt Heelan. We spoke about both of those, and I think they're in their own way very different. There's one player at the end of his career deciding whether he wants to come back and still help out. There's another player at the very start of his career still trying to figure out where he fits, both with the team and geographically. So we're going to turn it toward the Heat in our final segment here of the Inside the Paint Show, brought to you by RedRecover.com.
Heat fans, you're locked into the RedRecover.com Inside the Paint Show with Ira Winderman and Kurt Heelan. RedRecover.com helps pros and everyday warriors heal on the go with our medical-grade, highly specialized devices designed for each area of the body. Get 10% off by using code BIG-O. When you move, you need a reliable company led by passionate folks, eager to assist its customers during a transitional process that needs to be smooth. Call Essential Moving Experts at 844-368-5750 for all your local and long-distance moving needs. You can rely on Essential Moving Experts. Mention the Big O Show and get $150 off. Family owned and operated, they offer free 30-day storage, full-service moving, fully licensed, bonded, and insured. Moving was never so easy. EssentialMovingExperts.com.
If you're a Miami sports fan, then there's only one store to go to, and that's Caneswear at Miami Fanwear in Davie. They're your one-stop shop for all your inner Miami CF, Canes, Dolphins, Panthers, and Marlins merchandise. They have hats, t-shirts, game day jerseys, and so much more. Located at 2511 South University Drive in Davie, and open 24/7 online at caneswear.com or innermiamiwear.com. Call them at 954-835-5597. Caneswear, the spot where Inner Miami and all Miami sports fans shop.
Hey guys, this is Hayden Hurst, NFL tight end. I'm partnering today with Red Recover. We're going to run you guys through some drills. I started using Red Recover last year, my 4th year in the NFL. It just helps me on Mondays after games, get my recovery process started, get back into the fold of the week, and get ready for the following Sunday. And if you want to recover like me, use Red Recover.
The timeout is over. The RedRecover.com Inside the Paint program with Ira Winderman and Kurt Heelan is back. RedRecover.com's wraps and pads are designed to deliver maximum benefits with each treatment anywhere you go. Use code BIG O to get 10% off your order. Here's Ira Winderman and Kurt Heelan.
Welcome back to the Inside the Paint Show, brought to you by RedRecover.com. I'm Ira Winderman here on this side of the screen for those watching on YouTube. And hey, that's Kurt Heelan over there on the other side from NBCSports.com and Pro Basketball Talk. And Kurt, I had a chance this week to talk to a couple of Heat players. I guess I'll talk to the young, sexy player first, as we spoke about in our first segment. You can catch that on the podcast about whether the Heat are sexy enough for national television. Apparently, the answer we got today on schedule day was no. Tyler Herro's in a really interesting situation. He has gone through his entire career as the subject of trade rumors every single offseason. He was drafted in 2019. It was all copacetic and fine. As soon as the Heat went to the NBA Finals in 2020, he was this hot young thing. His value was high. The Heat were looking to possibly make a Giannis move or others. It was a short offseason, fortunately for him. This past offseason, the same type of thing. Actually, after last season, the same type of thing. Then this offseason, the same thing. Now we're at a point where there's sort of dual outside forces at play with Tyler Herro. He's the guy you trade if you want to make a move for Durant, if you want to make a move for Donovan Mitchell, if you want to make some other move. He's your sexiest asset. I guess that's the way to put it. Also, now that we know when the Heat season starts, we know the extension deadline off of a rookie scale is one day before your opener. For the Heat, that's October 18th. That if the Heat do not extend Tyler by then, they cannot go back during the regular season. They have to wait till next summer. He becomes a restricted free agent. And all of a sudden, with the Phoenix Suns, with DeAndre Ayton, all over again next summer. We saw how kind of ugly, I guess, Kurt, that played out. So I'm just going to ask you sort of a couple of thoughts after I sort of relate this. Spoke to Tyler. He was so professional. And he told me and Anthony Chang of the Miami Herald, I got to get ready for a season. If it's with the Miami Heat or it's with another team, I've got to get ready because I'm a player and that's what I do. And that really bodes well for him. And here's the odd thing. It might even bode well for him in a trade because an outside team might say, hey, this kid's more mature than I thought he was. This kid gets it. This kid will come in, and whether I'm in Indiana or Sacramento or Oklahoma City, and he'll get it that it's just about the game. Is there a point, Kurt, do you think, where the Heat and Tyler Herro can feel comfortable when it comes to a trade, where the Heat say, we'll talk about the extension in a second, where the Heat say, Tyler's definitely with our team this season, Coach Eric Spoelstra, design all you want with him. Think about putting him in your starting lineup. He's definitely here. And is there a time when Tyler Herro can think, I'm going to be in Miami all season?
Wouldn't you say that's, I don't want to say midway through training camp. It's kind of hard to pick a specific date, but 10 days or so left in training camp. You can't, you got to be careful messing with the roster after that. And doesn't that feel like you get to October 8th to 10th and say, hey, all right, we're not moving him and we should move on to the extension, serious extension discussions, because I mean, like you said, this is such a team built on continuity and a franchise built on treating people the right way. Like we've been talking about all, throughout this whole podcast and whole day on YouTube. At some point, you got to do that. You got to just be fair to the guy and say, hey, you're here or you're not, because and we talk about it almost in a fantasy basketball sense of, hey, who can we get and what we do? You're uprooting lives. Like, it is not easy on guys to be in those trade rumors and have that kind of hanging over them. Even if they're professional.
I'm going to go a little different direction. I think you're also uprooting your coaching staff, and I'll tell you why. Eric Spoelstra does have personnel control, but he always tells me, he goes, look, do I have input? Do I talk to Pat, Andy? Absolutely. But I got a job here to coach, and it's a full-time job that requires all my attention. This camp we go into to take people back to the start of the offseason, Tyler Hero comes out the day after the season ends on May 29th against the Celtics, Game 7, Eastern Conference Finals. And as he should and could, says, for the first time in my career, I want to be a starter. He's played almost exclusively off the bench his first 3 years. We wait about, I think it was 5 or 6 days, and Pat Riley asked him the same question. He leans in his Pat Riley way and says, earn it. Come to camp and earn it. Now, the Miami Heat will play a decidedly different style if their 3 wings are Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, and Tyler Hero than if their 3 wings are Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, and Max Strus. There'll be less spacing. It'll be different floor positions. It'll be more another ball handler, another slasher in there. So, Kurt, my point to you is you told me about 10 days left in camp or something like that. Means you're mostly through your preseason schedule, let's say at least halfway through. Yeah. Doesn't Eric Spoelstra need time if he's going to do something that major? Or do you think Eric Spoelstra has such a beautiful mind that he can say, I have plan A over here, I have plan B over there, I'll just work with both of them? That seems to be a lot harder in my view.
It does seem to be a lot harder. And I think part of what we can't predict sitting here is how these things, I mean, you may be able to tell a lot earlier. Hey, maybe Donovan gets traded prior to the start of training camp, and that one's off the table. And you watch the Nets early in training camp, and they're Daryl Morey last year with Ben Simmons. They're cool as a cucumber under the pressure. You might decide much earlier that nothing's happening and be able to make this decision. I think you have to play it a little by the outside situation, and like you said, I think a little bit by. You got to talk to Spoelstra. How much time does he feel he needs? How many games does he feel? Not that, again, it's preseason, but you want to give that. If that's your starting, if you're switching up your starting wings, you'd like to give them a quarter here and a quarter there to get some running. Right? Yeah.
To mesh. It's almost like the NFL thing of, do you play your guys in the preseason at all? Well, if you have a new running back or a new receiver or a new quarterback, you sort of want to develop that rhythm, maybe even with your left tackle, if you have a typical right-handed quarterback, and just get that going a little. The other thing you referenced was the extension. And it's more than just, I think, Kurt, if there's no deal with 10, 8, 6 days left in training camp, you can move on to the extension. Here's my question to you. Can you? For this reason. Once Tyler Hero is extended, a poison pill kicks in. Basically, I'm not going to go through the math for everyone, but it means he becomes untradeable for the balance of that season until next summer. The reason being is he would have a $5 million a year left on his contract. A new contract extension would start at $25 million. So it would change the amount of money you could send him out for and the amount of money you could take him in. Bottom line, once you do that, I think Bobby Marks actually had a thing of the last 75 players who were poison pill, only Devin Harris was traded. No one gets traded once they're on a poison pill contract. So why would you, Kurt Heelan, I'm going to put you on the spot, keep mentioning your name, full name here to put you more on the spot. Why would you extend Tyler and not give yourself the chance to trade him in November or December or January or before the mid-February NBA trading deadline? Why would you, as you just said, or maybe you want to backtrack here a little bit, why would you extend him and lose that trade opportunity? I'm just curious.
I don't mean to just throw this right back at you because I think you're going to be more knowledgeable about this than I will. How do you see Tyler as part of the future of the Heat? If you see him as part of the future, you lock him up at that point. And then granted, we're talking about trades for all-star and in Kevin Durant's case, superstar level players. It's a little different. I guess that's the question. Do they see him as part of the long term? Or Ira, do they see him as a piece they want to move to get the guy who's the long-term guy.
You know, I'm also, if you're watching on YouTube, I love that we have this little white barrier in between, because literally Kurt and I right now are playing volleyball. So I'm gonna, okay, he just sent it over the net to me, and I'm scrambling for the ball. And this is what I'd say about that. I can understand. You could say, where do the Heat view him long term? What if Victor Oladipo explodes and they have to redo him in free agency? And I get all that. What I always say though is I never let the short term impact the extension, because the extension is going to be 4 or 5 years. So it has to be the long view also. Not only what do I have now, but what's going to be there in the future. I do an extension or a near max extension under these terms, and I'm about to send the ball back over the other side of this little white barrier over here. Over here. Yeah, I'm pointing the right way. And it's this. I do an extension if I think a player can be great. I think the Heat believe Bam Adebayo can be great. With his unique skill set, he is great in his skill set. I extend him. Obviously, Dwayne Wade, you extend it. He could be great. That's a strong word, though. Great to me means multiple-time All-Star, means in contention, which Bam is already a one-time All-Star. I think he'll be back there.
Oh, yeah.
It means in contention for All-NBA, one of the 15 best players in the league in a given year. Bam's already had one of those nods. I think he'll get more. Is Tyler Hero, and again, you're a GM right now, Kurt. Do you believe that Tyler Hero necessarily will be great?
By that definition, by multiple-time All-Star, All-NBA, I'm not convinced he's that guy. I'm sure you read it. I'm sure most of the people who read this read the Zach Lowe deep dive on him earlier this year, where he settled on the CJ McCollum.
Right. Nice player.
Great guy in the community. Smart. You'd like to have him around. Third best player on a championship team, maybe? Like, and you better have the right players around in the audience.
Yeah,
and that's I think where Tyler is.
And to me, so that's the thing. I think that's what you judge it on, because as you know, when you're seeing it in LA now with the Westbrook and the Davis and LeBron contracts, you get 3 of those on your books and you're screwed. Yeah. You know, and you're getting Austin Reeves or whatever the hell his name is as a rotation player, because that's where you're left with what you have left in your rotation. You're grabbing older veterans for a season in an Ellington and a Ariza, and you sort of get locked in. That's why I think the Heat wait. And there's something interesting also. The way Tyler spoke to me about his professional business-like approach, and this might backfire on him. He was candid. If I think Tyler is not going to be a problem without an extension, it makes it easier for me not to give him one. Yes. Bam came from a hard-scrapple upbringing. He was raised in a single-wide trailer. He wanted to take care of his mom, who's down here in Miami with him. He had a great story. He sort of felt compelled that he wanted his money and he wanted it now. I think you can wait for Tyler. I know the DeAndre Ayton thing was very uncomfortable for Phoenix this year. I think free agency was very uncomfortable for the Suns and DeAndre Ayton. But I think the Suns thought the same thing about DeAndre Ayton. I think when James Jones and Monty Williams and their front office sat down there, they said to themselves, can DeAndre Ayton be great? Will he ever be a regular All-Star? Will he be a regular on All-NBA? And I'm not so sure he will be. So they put the ball in someone else's court. Okay, someone makes an offer, we'll deal with it then. Maybe we can trade him. That's what I think is interesting about Tyler, is I think he's going to be, like Zach Lowe said, a very, very good player. Yeah. But I can't give very, very great money to a very, very good player, which is why, honestly, and I know it could get difficult, I would wait on the extension, because I could always sign him as a restricted free agent next summer.
I think my other 2 questions there are simply this. A, would he accept less than the max, or consider, like, would he take a Jalen Brunson for 125 type of deal? Or
Jaylen Brown deal even, which I put him as the equivalent there on what he got from the Celtics. I think it was like 4 and 108. I think he should, and I think he has to. And I think with DeAndre Ayton, it was there's so few quality big men that I think the Suns had to blink at the end, because you're not going to find that necessarily. Sort of like the Heat did with Bam when they gave him his extension, when they were thinking about trying to save the money for Giannis Antetokounmpo, when they didn't know if Giannis was going to re-up with the Bucks. So I get that also. I think Tyler might want it all because his agent's telling him he wants it all, because his friends are telling him he deserves it all. But I think you have to reach a middle ground. So maybe the middle ground is this. We will do the extension at this, or we can wait. And maybe that's the best compromise for everyone, is the Heat gives a middle ground extension offer that won't cripple their salary cap 4 or 5 years down the road, but will still make sure that Tyler Hero is handsomely played. paid. So I think that's going to be a real interesting point. The other thing, I spoke to Udonis Haslem. His foundation did marvelous work in helping businesses in the urban community with starting funds, along with FTX this weekend. I was very surprised by this. I went to this event with Anthony Chang of the Miami Herald. We fully expected some sort of hints that Udonis Haslem is definitely coming back because 20 is a magic number in the NBA. You play 20 seasons in the NBA, it's something. You play 20 with the same franchise, you're Kobe, you're Dirk. You're in that pantheon, no matter what your productivity might have been. And UD even told us, he said, hey, I want to wait a little. I want to sort of figure this out. I'm not necessarily buying. They have held this roster spot to this point for Udonis. They will have $200,000 left under the luxury tax, no more moves. If Udonis really wasn't thinking about coming back, I think it's almost holding the team hostage, whether it's a Markieff Morris or adding another power forward they could otherwise. Do you expect, having covered the legacy of a Kobe on a different plane, but understanding even to Kobe, when he did decide to retire, it was after 20, when he had that kind of time in, is 20 that kind of magic number?
Yeah, and I'll say, yes, I think it is. I think it's just, we're human. We love those big round numbers, right? It's just in our nature. But the other part of it is, when I read your story, I thought the same thing you were just talking about, which is Udonis Haslem is too invested in the Heat, is too much a believer in everything that they have taught and he has been part of over these years for him to do this, for him to go last minute, go, nah, I don't want it. Like, because it would leave them scrambling to fill that last spot with what's left, as opposed to who they could have gotten a month ago, right?
In July, absolutely.
So I just don't think that's who he is. I read that thinking, yeah, he's coming back.
Yeah, no, I just, I could totally understand where they're sort of coming from. And I can understand also where Udonis is coming from, that it's a hard decision because of the travel and all of that. So I'm just curious. And I know Big O wants us to address also, and Dougie Fresh, or whatever he's going by these days, was asking a question on our question board, which unfortunately I don't have open right now, but because Big O's the boss, I do want to cycle sort of back to that also. But last question, sort of end of the show right here, is when it comes to Kevin Durant and having to draw a line and all he's been through and all we're going to talk about next week, we spoke about last week, with all the baggage and everything else, would you still take Kevin Durant, even if it means being part of the circus?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there is a limit to the price. I'm not stripping my team down where I can't, and we've talked about this. I'm not giving a Bam. I have to be able to contend with him on there. And that said, he himself, the drama, there's a lot of drama around him. Guy likes to play basketball. He is truly a hooper. He is truly committed to the game. And if he shows up, he shows up and he's healthy, he's going to play, and he's going to play hard, and he's going to play well. And he's going to give you a chance to win. I personally, yes, I'm all in.
Yeah, and as Doug pointed out in this question, he's just saying he's such a great player and what he's done. And, especially also, we forget this. He hasn't necessarily done great in Brooklyn because of COVID, because of Kyrie, because of injuries. But it was just a year ago when he was playing in the Olympics against the greatest players in the world internationally, alongside some of the best players in the NBA. And he was head and shoulders on almost every game, probably every game, the best player on the court there. We're just 1 year removed from that. So I do think when you look at it there, if you have a chance, we're going to be in the same holding pattern, which I love, because the Inside the Paint, redrecover.com show will always have a Kevin Durant segment, including when I'm out covering the Heat during the preseason and out during training camp. Because again, I think, and I agree with you, and I agree with the question here, when you have a chance for something that great, you don't summarily say, no, drawing a deadline, look at my watch, 10 seconds to go, yes or no, Brooklyn. I agree. So we will be back next week, back to our maybe usual Wednesday time of 9 a.m. on the East Coast, or as Kurt likes to say, 6 a.m. on the West Coast, with more Heat insight, a little bit more maybe on where Tyler Hero stands, a little bit more maybe on the fallout on the schedule. We addressed all of that today in our show. You can catch it on the podcast on the Big O Show. But for now, the Big O Show, I think even this late, rolls on.
You've been listening to the redrecover.com Inside the Paint Show with Ira Winderman and Kurt Heelan. Go to redrecover.com to learn more about red light with videos, blog posts, and 40 years of medical research to treat pain, inflammation, and overall well-being. Use code BIG-O to get a 10% discount. The redrecover.com Inside the Pain Show is mastered by executive producer Sean Stanley. Please search Big O Radio Show on most platforms. Subscribe and smash the like button.
There's no need to drive around South Florida wasting valuable time looking for a new or certified pre-owned Acura. Go to the #1 volume sales dealership in the Southeast United States. Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines. Purchase with pace and space in a dealership tailored to your needs. From home buying to providing that personal touch. Contact the 2020 Satisfaction Award winner Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines. 888-776-5123. That's 888-776-5123. Or visit them at 15601 Pines Boulevard in Pembroke Pines.
The viewpoint statements or beliefs expressed on the following program by the host, guests, or callers are not necessarily the opinions of FantasyAccess.com, Media Group Inc. ownership, management, sponsors, or website. When it comes to South Florida sports teams, very few in the media have witnessed, lived, and covered it like the Big O. Let's start the program dedicated to your favorite South Florida teams with a passion that's unmatched. The Big O Radio Show is on. Here's the Big O.
All right, we are back. Hour number 4 of the program as Ira Winderman and Kurt Heelan from Pro Basketball Talk just finished up talking one hardcore hour of NBA and Miami Heat talk. We will now turn to the NFL. My man is hurting right now. Let's go to Matt Verderam, our Red Recover Inside the Huddle.
Let's huddle up with Fanside National NFL reporter Matt Verderam. The Huddle is brought to you by RedRecover.com. RedRecover.com's wraps and pads are designed to deliver maximum benefits with each treatment anywhere you go. Go to RedRecover.com to learn more about red light with videos, blog posts, and over 40 years of medical research to treat pain, inflammation, and overall well-being. Here's NFL reporter Matt Verderam.
There he is. Wait a minute. We got to get that KSDT CPA board out of the way. There he is.
It might look better for your audience with the board up.
Are you all right? Are you hanging in there? Because, Nicole Hardman got a little banged up there, growing injury. Are you all right there? Are you hanging in there?
I think I'm about as well as he is. Look, there are two things. There are two pet peeves I have. And I've been guilty of it, as every reporter in the world has, but two pet peeves that drive me crazy. One is when people report contract details, and it's like, this guy got 5 years and $100 million, and it's really like 2 years and like $30 million. That's number one. Number two is when at this time of year, people are like, oh, you got carted off. You got cart. And then you read the beat writers who are there, and they're like, yeah, you hopped on a golf cart. And that was the situation today in Kansas City, or actually, to be more accurate, St. Joe's. Chris Jones was carted off, too. Nobody's talked about that. He had a sore back. He left early. Nicole Hardman had, as you point out, they think a minor groin injury. But if you read it on Twitter, it sounds like these guys are getting, carted off a battlefield. So right. It drives me nuts when you see these things come across. And you're like, oh, wait, what happened? Then you go and check it out. You're like, oh, hey, probably fine, which is good, but it's also annoying.
Some people may not realize that the Chiefs have Josh Gordon on that roster. And obviously, Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, the Sky Moore kid, all those people are ahead of him, I'm sure. But Josh Gordon is trying to find, footing again in the NFL. He's actually there. And by the way, I think he's with the perfect coach. If he's ever going, it's kind of been too long now from where he was at to where he is now, which, by the way, kind of leads me to this question. If Watson has to sit out another year, I got to tell you something. You better start worrying if he ever is going to be the player he was. Because when you're away from football that long, that's not an easy thing to do. Now, back in the day, Roger Staubach had to do it. You know what I mean? So there, it's Muhammad Ali he had to leave boxing and then come back. So it's been done before, but man, it becomes one hell of a mission for you. And look at Josh Gordon. He's never been able to recapture what he was back in the day. And you wonder, okay, can if Deshaun Watson misses another year, dude, that's 2 years away from football. That's a long time to not be playing at a high level.
It is. And you mentioned Josh Gordon. Look, I think unless somebody gets hurt for the Chiefs, he's going to get cut. He's not making that team. But that's your point. Like, it's been, he had great talent, but years and years and years of not playing or barely playing, it takes its toll. Time takes its toll. And you're right. Guys like Roger Staubach, who didn't play for years, Navy service, stuff like that, and then went and played. I think the one difference is, with all due respect to players of that era, guys back then basically rolled out of bed in August, and it was like, all right, 2 weeks, get ready, knock off that 10 pounds you gained while you were selling cars in the off season, and let's play football. Like, you don't play now, you are legitimately falling way behind. I mean, guys are just so finely tuned now. You always see those like reports when there's a rash of injuries, and there's these articles about like why do guys get hurt now? Like, what in baseball, right? Like, there's always, it seems like now pitchers get hurt all the time. Yeah. Why? Because guys are like finely tuned Ferraris, and so if any little thing goes wrong, they get hurt. Well, back when Nolan Ryan pitched, I mean, you got out of bed just like a Budweiser and threw 150 pitches like that. I mean, that, I'm obviously oversimplifying, but the point is,
well, he was a workout fiend, actually.
Yes, he actually was.
He actually fits today's game.
He does.
Overall, he would have been perfect because he was like,
a guy like Gaylord Perry.
He worked with that rice barrel, that whole rice barrel thing that he was.
Yeah. But a guy like Gaylord Perry's in the Hall of Fame, right? Like, not exactly a physical specimen. Didn't have to be. Got out of bed, fine, throw the ball. Like, it's different now. The work that went in then is like a day's worth of practice. So, yeah, if Watson's out a couple of years, if that ends up being the case, you do wonder, like, okay, he's still a young guy, but is he going to come back and look the way he did in Houston? Or is he going to come back and it's just going to be, he's still good, but he's not what he was? Who knows?
Right.
Who knows?
The little window that we saw, he was kind of a little out of whack in the little window that we saw this first week. And that's because, again, you're out of the game, dude. And now it's going to be a second year because it looks like it's going to be a second year. All right. I didn't want to talk really about, I didn't want to bring up Watson, but the whole Josh Gordon thing reminded me of him also going to be away from football. And it's like, because like Gordon with all his substance issues just pretty much ruined his career. Yep. Let me segue to something you led to, which I would imagine that's what you're talking about, the Derwin James deal. That it's $76 million and it's average 19.1 every year or whatever, but nobody has told us what the guarantees are, which is really the key right now. Because if we find out, and then the reason we don't know the guarantees yet, because the agent didn't feel like telling any of the reporters, so now they've got to wait, as you know, because you've been at this like I have for a while. They got to wait a couple of days till the contract's official, and then it's in the NFLPA, and then everybody can have access to it, and then we'll find out the juicy numbers of it. Because if it's only like 15 or 20 million guaranteed, or 30, we now know it's like you said before, it's like a 2-year deal.
So they actually came out just now, just a minute, $42 million. Okay. It's the highest guaranteed ever. But here's the thing that I am interested in. Okay,
that's a 3-year deal.
So $42 million, and it's the highest guarantee ever. It's the highest annual money ever. But you have to consider this with the Chargers. I wrote about this extensively 2 weeks ago.
There's a dumb contract, and I'm going to bring something up when you're finished. Go ahead.
So they are going to have to pay Justin Herbert next offseason. That's coming. Either they're going to pay him, or it's going to be an all-out verbal war between his agent and that team for a long time to come. Right. So now, even if they pay him, people always get this twisted. They think like the second he gets paid, his cap number goes through the roof. It's not the case. He will still be cheap for the last 2 years of his rookie deal. Then the extension kicks in. That's when the money gets big. So you wonder with Derwin James, who is currently playing on his 5th-year option, and then he'll have 2 big numbers that are guaranteed in 2023 and 2024. Do the Chargers move on after that? Because then Herbert's money kicks in 2025. So, I mean, I speculated a couple weeks ago that if I'm Tom Telesco, that's what I would do. That's exactly what I would do because I love Derwin James's talent. And it's like
so injury prone, dude.
Yes. And that's the thing that I feel like a lot of times doesn't get brought up for a variety of reasons. It's not a knock on the guy, to be honest. He has been eligible in his career to play 65 NFL games. He has missed 29 of them. He's basically missed every other game of his career. So to pay him, look, I get it if you're the Chargers, he's super talented. That is an enormous risk. An enormous risk for a team that is Slater coming up in a couple of years and Herbert coming up next year.
Can I run something by you? Can I run something by you? Okay, because obviously we, and I mean us in the media, sometimes the public picks on us, right? But it's not our effing fault, dude. We get jaded sometimes because we get lied to so much. We get misled so much by people in the league and agents and all that stuff because everybody's got a freaking agenda. And so for me, when I look at this situation, I see it as a PR move. I think Tom Telesco knows this is a bad deal, but I think that Tom Telesco and the people above know that they have a terrible reputation. And while he is a good player and he's a hell of a talent in his own right, but he's not worth that money because he can't stay healthy, unfortunately. But if you're the Chargers and you don't want to pay people and you don't want to keep your better players around, you will send a terrible message out there. And if you ever want Justin Herbert to have success, you will need to recruit other people, not just your draft picks, because everybody's got to build teams also through free agency, not just through the draft. And I almost feel like the Chargers did this like a PR move more than anything else, because they had to kind of send a message that, hey, we will take care of our own. Even a guy like this that has been kind of injury prone in a way, I almost feel like this is more of a PR move than anything else. Am I too jaded?
I don't know that I feel like it's more of a PR move, but I think you're right in the sense that they were in a very tough spot. If they didn't sign him, the refrain would be, well, of course they didn't sign him. They're the Chargers. They're cheap. And so you're getting this whole thing about, are they going to pay Herbert? And then, guys in the room get pissed because he's a great player and he's out there sacrificing his body and all that stuff. And listen, that's all valid. But injuries matter. They do matter. Like people, I almost, like I said earlier, I think sometimes it's seen as like shots at the player if the media is like, well, he's injury prone. Well, he has been injury prone. I mean, he's missed a ton of games. So that does factor in whether or not you're signing a guy.
And the Chargers, as a franchise, have failed their fan base over and over again. And so these are things that, like your favorite team and my favorite team, even though my favorite team has been a clown show, they'll pay everybody. I mean, there's no cheapness with the Dolphins at all, okay? That's never been the case under Huizenga or Ross. Those dudes pay, okay? So it hasn't ever been a lack of trying. They've had the wrong people in the leadership position. So obviously that's been why the Dolphins haven't succeeded. Kansas City, the same thing. The Hunt family doesn't have that. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of franchises like that they don't carry that stigma, but the Chargers do. And to me, that's why, because fiscally, it doesn't make any sense to give Derwin James that contract at all, considering what you just said. He's missed half his career as a Charger. Dude, are you out of your mind giving him that kind of money? But in their case, they have to have some good PR amongst all the bad PR that they've had for years now, including being a tenant in someone else's stadium, which is by NFL standards, you're basically the dregs of the NFL. You're so poor you can't have your own stadium, which doesn't make sense in a league that prints money.
Yeah, look, you know what? It's going to be interesting because if I were Tom Telesco, I probably would have just said, look, I will call your bluff. You're not going to hold out. You're not going to miss games because guys don't miss game checks because the NFL is too fickle. And I would have said at the end of the year, I can tag you. I mean, now, and then at that point, look, if he has if he had gone out this year and he played 16, 17 games and he's healthy and he's a first team All Pro, then maybe we're having a different conversation.
Exactly.
I think incredibly highly of his talent. I think when he's on the field, I might make the argument that he's the best safety in football, but he's not healthy a lot. Look, I will say this. It's a big gamble for the Chargers. I also get it in this respect. They are trying to catch Kansas City. They have not been able to catch them for a long time. Nobody's caught them for a long time. The Chiefs are trying to win their 7th straight division title. Okay. The Chargers know that they might as well spend the money right now, because when Herbert gets paid, they're not going to be able to spend that money around the roster. And so I give them credit in the sense they're saying, look, we got 2 more years, 3 more years of Herbert being cheap. And we are going to go out and get the J.C. Jacksons of the world and pay Derwin James. And we're going to go out, we're going to get Corey Linsley. And we're going to go out and get Kyle Van Noy. And we're going to spend money on Khalil Mack. And I get it. And I applaud them for it. Now, the question is, did they do it with the right players and in the right spots? I think the Chargers are I could make an argument the Chargers, their 10 best players are better than anybody else's in football. You could make that argument. You wouldn't be crazy.
Bro, they shouldn't have missed the playoffs last year.
No,
that team was more than good enough to be in the playoffs. They should have been in the playoffs.
The question you have with the Chargers is a lot of those top 10 guys have had injury histories. And if they get hurt, whether it's Bosa or James or Khalil Mack last year or Keenan Allen or Mike Williams, if they get hurt, they have no depth. That is the fear I have with the Chargers. If the Bills have a couple guys go down, they got guys for days on the bench. Kansas City, the same thing. Tampa, the same thing. The Rams, the same thing. The Chargers do not have depth. If anybody goes down for a length of time, I mean, they were pretty healthy last year and they missed the playoffs. If they're not healthy this year, if the guys are missing 4 or 5 games, you just wonder with them, are they just so top heavy that they can't compete if there are the injuries that happen every year for the most part in the NFL?
That's a great point. I didn't realize it, but you're right. Their depth is very questionable. All right, we'll wrap it up with this. Let's have a little fun. Pats and Panthers, 2 straight days of brawls. Is it just frustrations of camp, or is it frustrations that the players are going, man, this situation is kind of screwed up?
Oh, I mean, it's the first time the Panthers have shown fight in years. So it's a good news, bit of news for Carolina. The Pats, every report you hear, and I'm sure everybody in Miami is paying close attention to this, is the fact that their offense is a disaster. I mean, that's all you hear is that Patricia and Judge can't get the offense on track, which who could have seen that coming? That Matt Patricia and Joe Judge can't figure out an offense. Well, no kidding. It's a defensive coordinator and a special teams coach, both of which who failed miserably as head coaches, who are now trying to figure out an offense that has exactly 0 stars at the skill position.
And none of these guys, including Belichick, have been calling plays against all these defensive coordinators every week for years now. Where that's why you want your offensive coordinators that are experienced and been around, because they have gone through it and they know the tendencies of all these guys. I got to tell you something. I know it's blasphemous to say this, but I think the wheels are coming off of the Patriots and the dynasty and Belichick and all this stuff. And I think he's just acting like he's way too smart in this situation. Here's where I give Saban a ton of credit, because he comes off that Belichick tree, yet, brother, he loses an offensive coordinator. He goes and finds another one. He doesn't try to become the offensive coordinator. He goes and finds another offensive coordinator, and a damn good one. He'll go find himself for his team. This is the part that I don't understand how you hey, listen, I'm glad the Dolphins beat them twice last year, and they had no coaches, no line, no running game. I think they've got a coaching staff now, and I think they'll fix the offense. And with all the talent they had on offense, I think the Dolphins will beat them twice again this year, because they're better, and I don't believe the Patriots are. So I'm glad they're headed in this direction. But as blasphemous as it is to say, I got to tell you, Matt, I think the wheels are coming off Belichick.
Well,
that's just me.
You know what? I mean, they very well might be. The problem is when you drafted poorly, as they did at times, especially toward the end of Brady's time there, you cover it up because you're Brady. All right. I mean, who cares if you didn't hit on your 3rd round pick? You have Tom Brady. It doesn't matter. Like you're going to overcome that. When you have Mac Jones, who, by the way, played fine as a rookie, but like when you have Mac Jones, you do not have that margin for error. Okay. When you have the Bradys and the Rodgers and the Mahomeses of the world, You can do a lot of things wrong and still win a ton. I mean, look at the quintessential.
Hey, look at the Chargers. Look at the Chargers. Look what they've done. They didn't just get Herbert. They have surrounded him with a hell of a cast, dude. And that's what you're supposed to do.
The quintessential example of that was those years of Peyton Manning in Indianapolis. They won 13 games every single year. And the second he got hurt, that team literally could not win a game. Couldn't do anything. But when you have Mac Jones, like, you've got to be good everywhere else. You've got to be able to support him. If you can't do that, you're screwed. And I look at them, if it was any coach but Belichick who was doing what they're doing right now, they would be skewered to the end of the earth. But because it's and like, look, fair enough. I mean, Belichick's got more rings almost in fingers. But when you're Belichick, you get the pass, and I get it. But it doesn't mean it's a good idea. It doesn't mean that, like, that it's going to work out because Bill's doing it. Well, no, I mean, it's still Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. Like, at the end of the day, they are not Bill Belichick, and that is a concern. And I'm with you. I do not think the Dolphins will have much issue beating them out in the standings this year.
Exactly. When everybody talks about those first 4 games with the Dolphins, that you've got the Ravens, you've got the Patriots, the Bengals, and the Bills, I really only fear the Bills. I'm sorry. Did Lamar Jackson from last year to now, is he going to figure out that zero cover blitz that Miami whipped on him last year? And then everybody else said, oh, that's how you attack him. No, I don't think so. I don't think the Patriots are better, but I think the Dolphins are. And the Bengals, okay, Miami's got a secondary that maybe could hang with that receiving core, which is absolutely awesome. I think they may have a shot in that game. The Bills, forget it, dude. The Bills they're a Super Bowl caliber team, and I know it. But this fear of God in the first 4 games for the Dolphins, I'm sorry, I don't see it. I think the Dolphins can be very competitive, be 500 or be 3-1, maybe even in the first 4 games. The Bills is the one that I don't think they're going to win.
If they're 500, I think you'd be like, all right. I mean, that's a tough 4 games, right? Like, if they beat New England, they get a division win, and then they win one of those other 3 games. Okay. Yeah, I will say I do think it's an interesting matchup with Cincinnati because of what you said. Like, that is it's a weird game because on the surface you're like, well, I think Cincinnati's better, but then you actually look at it and you're like, no, if Tua plays well, they have a shot to win because Cincinnati cannot guard Miami's receivers. Miami can guard. It's all about the quarterback play. If Tua has a good game, they can win. Now, if Tua has a game where he throws for 180 yards, they're going to get smoked.
Oh, no. That game, he has to score points.
Yeah, they're going to have to move the ball in the big way. But hey, listen, you know what? The Dolphins are better. The Patriots, I agree with you, are not. You know what? The Patriots are like the Steelers in this regard. You never can count them out because you know they will not beat themselves. That is the one thing. Like the Steelers this year, I look at the Steelers and I'm like, I don't get it. All right, they're good defensively.
Are you with me on this? Are you with me on this? You got to go Kenny Pickett.
Yes,
I've been saying this from the
enough for
get-go,
Trubisky.
dude.
God, stop. Mitch Trubisky, why? I'm based in Chicago. You know how many people are excited to see Trubisky taking a snap? 0. All right. Yeah. I'm with you. But it's funny. Like, I think if you're the Steelers, if you just play conservative offensively and you don't turn the ball over and you play good defense, okay, you're not winning a Super Bowl. But I'll tell you right now, with Tomlin, they will beat Cleveland probably twice. They'll find some way to beat Baltimore because those games are always weird and tough. And
they got a hell of a defense.
They do.
Pittsburgh defense. Remember, they get their pass rushers back this year.
Yes.
They lost their pass rushers towards the end of last year. That really hurt their defense. They lost one of their D linemen also. Yes. They'll be healthier. Pittsburgh's defense is still pretty damn good, dude, and they can get after the quarterback.
But they're the kind of team, much like New England, where you look at them and you say, they're not like their talent isn't off the chart. Now, Pittsburgh, I think, is more talented than New England is, but the idea remains. Like, they're not super talented. Like, Pittsburgh's not one of the top 10 most talented teams in football.
No.
But because of the coaching, they will not beat themselves. If you're going to win, you're going to have to limit your penalties, limit your turnovers, not drop passes on third down. Like, they will win. Each of those teams will win 2 or 3 games this year where you're like, how the hell did they beat that team? Well, it's because they took 2 penalties and they didn't drop a pass. Right. And they were +3 in the turnover margin. And they were great on third down, and they were 100% in the red zone. Like, that's how those teams win. And then you'll look at a team. Last year, we talked about, I guess, go full circle, the Chargers, who have all the talent in the world, but you watch them and it's like, well, here's a dumb turnover and here's a ridiculous drop.
Oh,
and
the Texans game cost them the playoffs.
They gave up 40-plus points to the Texans, who had 25 guys on the COVID list. Like, that kind of stuff. Like, New England, there's no way in hell they ever lose that game, like, ever, in a million years.
Right. No.
So it is about coaching to a degree, and I think that's why those teams will be competitive, although I don't think they're any kind of contenders for something like the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm not a Pittsburgh fan, but if you're a Steeler fan out there, Kenny Pickett is the guy, dude. And I like him, actually. I don't care about the small hand stuff and all that. That kid can play. He's got moxie. Give him a chance. He's the guy that gives you a chance. Mason Rudolph is toast, and Trubisky is toast. Give the Pickett kid a chance. Yeah, I'm with you there. All right, tell them about Stacking the Box and everything else, my brother.
All right, check out Stacking the Box every Tuesday now that I'm back from vacation. It is every Tuesday all throughout the year. Also Sundays now, starting week 1, the morning of the games. We go right from noon to 1. Previewing the whole league right before we get going. You can find it on YouTube. Check it out. Subscribe there. And then actually, I also do the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Fanside had started as a Chiefs website, and so it became much more than that. But I only bring that up because today we interviewed exclusively Brett Veach, the general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs. He came on the pod. It was nice enough to join us for about 15 minutes. So if you'd like to hear his thoughts on a lot of things, not just the Chiefs, go check out the Arrowhead Addict podcast, and you can hear more of me and see more of me, which is probably a negative, but why not?
It's a positive. We love you, Matt. Appreciate you. Follow him on Twitter also at Matt Verderam, and make sure you follow everything that he does and subscribe to Stacking the Box podcast. Matt, have a great week, my brother. We'll catch up next week, my friend. Appreciate you.
Sounds good. Take care.
You got it. And he was a stud today, adjusting with the times and everything. So we appreciate it. That is now the end of The Huddle.
This has been The Huddle with NFL reporter Matt Verderam. RedRecover.com helps pros and everyday warriors heal on the go with their medical-grade, highly specialized devices designed for each area of the body. Go to RedRecover.com to learn more about red light with videos, blog posts, and over 40 years of medical research to treat pain, inflammation, and overall well-being.
Alrighty. Cutter's Edge. Cutter's Edge was here today at the house, cutting up that ground. So it's I'm looking forward to it, man. Looking forward to seeing the end result. Wow Graphics says we finally got rid of the cancer in the locker room. Omar has moved on, so we can finally go on to winning some chips. LOL. All the best to Omar. Omar's a good dude, man. I love Omar. Completely disagree with him sometimes on certain things. Just like the whole Tua thing and the weirdo stuff, to me, Tua needs to just take care of business on the field. That's it. And everything else will fall in place. Professional teams they're kind of an odd bird in a way. If you get along with certain guys, great and all that stuff. But if you can play, that's all that matters. I mean, the 70, 72 Knicks, right? Those were the championship years, I think. Somebody correct me out there. Anyway, you know what the saying was for those guys? 12 guys, 12 cabs. They didn't hang around each other or anything. And they went and won 2 titles. Well, it's just about playing the game. Okay? That's it. Big O, what's your take on Buffalo? Do you think they got better than last year? Buffalo's a freaking awesome team, Frankie. We have to give them their due, and we just got to hope that the Dolphins can build to getting to that point. They're not there right now. They really don't have any business beating the Bills. If they do, then they have made incredible progress. But I hate to say it, dude, the Bills are better. The Bills are a Super Bowl caliber team. Okay? We're just hoping the Dolphins are a playoff. I think they're a playoff team with Tua. I really do. I think they're going to be in the playoffs with Tua. But that's just me. I'm 2-on. I'm crazy. I don't see the reality and all that stuff. But that's what they've got to prove. But the Bills are at another level, and we need to see our boys get to this first level It's not 0-60. I know the Bengals did it last year, but they didn't win it all. I'd like to just kind of build and get to that point. So we'll find out. But that's why I'll tell you they're not better than the Bills. And in the first 4 games, I don't fear the other 3. I don't fear the Ravens anymore. I think the Dolphins will be more than tough enough to play in that game, and I think they'll confuse the crap out of Lamar Jackson like they did last year. And I don't fear the Patriots at all. And I think the Dolphins have a shot against the Bengals. The Bills, I got too much respect for them. Until our boys show it to me, I know that they can compete and win in the first 3. Will they? I don't know. But I feel they can compete and win those games. The Bills won. I don't expect them to win. I hope it's close. That's all. I hope it's close. All right, we are out of here. We thank Ian Rapoport, Matt Verderam for joining us as always. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll be live at Hialeah Park. We're not going to practice over the next couple of days. We're done till next week when the Eagles come in, and we'll go out there for those 2 practices against the Eagles, and we'll have some fun. Tomorrow we'll be at Hialeah Park, so come on out and join us over at Hialeah Park, man. It'll be a good time. Appreciate all of you. We'll be in the second floor poker room if you want to come on out. Sean Stanley, excellent work by you, sir. Also, the C-Man also helping us out. We will see all of you tomorrow, same time, same place, same bat channel. Have a good one.